Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Am I audible and visible? Ankush, good evening. Hemlata, good evening. Am I audible and visible? Simran, Gunjan. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Hemlata. Let some more people join in and then I'll begin. Good evening, Zainab. Target? Okay. Yeah, good evening, all of you. Saminder, Kriti, Yuksin, Tejaswini. Mridul, you have to mail, please mail target IAS at the rate of byju's.com, Mridul. I'm not the concerned person. I'm only a faculty. My duty is to just teach. The backend team deals with all these things. So you please mail target IAS at the rate of byju's.com. Right? Mridul, Megha, Shailaja, Roshan, good evening, all of you. So let us begin this chapter, pre-Maurya period, 6th century to the 3rd century BC. It is also called the age of the Buddha. Understand this? Yeah, Hemlata, please mail target IAS at the rate of byju's.com, or alternatively also keep me in CC. I will forward it to the concerned people. Right? I'll forward it to the concerned people. That's the least I can do. Right, we'll come back here. So we have dealt with the Vedic period last class yesterday. We finished with the Vedic chapter. Now, towards the end of the Vedic period, that is towards around 6th century BC, we have seen that we have cities coming into existence. Cities came into existence in the Indo-Gangetic Basin, Hastinapur, Kaushambi. These were the earliest cities. The 6th century BC is also called as the pre-Maurya period or the age of the Buddha. So it is known by different names. I'll use a separate page here. So 6th century BC, 600 BC is also called pre-Maurya period. It is called pre-Maurya period. It is also called age of second urbanization. Age of second urbanization, and also called age of the Buddha, also known as the age of the Buddha. So it is known by various names. 6th century BC is also called pre-Maurya period, age of second urbanization, age of the Buddha. Now, as we have seen in the later Vedic period, agriculture was the main occupation. Agriculture had become the main occupation. And we have extensive agriculture, which took place in the Indo-Gangetic Basin, in the Ganga-Yamuna Basin. In the Ganga-Yamuna Basin, you have extensive agriculture which took place. So the forests were cut down with the help of iron axes, iron implements. Patches of the forest were also burned down, and with the help of iron axes and implements, it was cleared and made fit for agriculture. So you have a surplus generated. Understand this? You have a surplus generated. Surplus food was generated through agriculture. Trade and commerce flourished for that reason, because you have a money economy, the coming into existence of a money economy, population increased, and slowly civilization spread from the west towards the east. Slowly civilization spread from the west towards the east. So the Aryans came from the northwest. So then they occupied this region, Punjab, then Haryana region, then western UP, western Uttar Pradesh, northern Bihar. So that's how the civilization spread from the west towards the east. Now, in the 6th century BC, 600 BC, there were about 16 kingdoms. Understand this. By the 6th century BC, there were about 16 kingdoms which came into existence. They are called in Sanskrit Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Shodasha in Sanskrit means 16. Maha means large, as you all know. Maha means large. Janapada is a territorial state or a kingdom. Territorial state or kingdom. So 16 large territorial states or kingdoms came into existence. And how do we know this? How do we know that there were 16 large states during the 6th century BC? We have a Buddhist book called Anguttara Nikaya. We have a Buddhist text called Anguttara Nikaya. This book called Anguttara Nikaya gives us the list of 16 kingdoms. Out of the 16 kingdoms, 11 were monarchies. Understand this? 11 were monarchies. And 5 were republics. Um, yeah. So so 11 were monarchies, 5 were republics. So out of the 16, 11 were monarchies ruled by kings. So these kings had a standing army. You have a group of Brahmins called the Parisha who assisted the king, who advised the king in the discharge of his duties. And then in a republic, the population was very small. Some states where republics, population was small, like the Mallas, Kamboja, um, then of course Vrijji or Vajji. These were some of the republics. A king was elected, and you have a parliament. In these republics, there was a parliament or a Santhagara, which assisted the king in running the affairs of the kingdom. So there were 16 states, as mentioned in the Anguttara Nikaya. Some were republics and some were monarchies. Most were monarchies, rather. Now, so what are the important highlights of this period? Understand this. I'll give you the highlights of this period in some time. Just hold on. So out of these 16 states, one state becomes very, very powerful. That is Magadha. So out of 16 states, one state becomes very, very powerful. That is Magadha. Magadha ruled over present parts of Bihar and Bengal, what we now call Bihar and Bengal. And when I say Bengal, it also includes East Bengal, which is Bangladesh now. So not only West Bengal, which is in India, but also East Bengal or Bangladesh. So it was a very huge kingdom. And out of the 16 states, Magadha becomes very, very powerful. So in this chapter, we need to understand what are the reasons for the rise of Magadha. What made Magadha very, very powerful when compared to the other 15 states. And whoever ruled from Magadha was considered to be the most powerful king of North and Central India. Whoever ruled from Magadha or whoever ruled over the Magadha kingdom was considered to be the most powerful ruler of North and Central India. So we'll discuss about that. Reasons for the rise of Magadha. Then, of course, what are the highlights of this period? What are the highlights of this period? The highlights of the 6th century BC, right? We'll discuss this. And of course, Persian and Greek invasion and their impact. So this is how I will be following. Reasons for the rise of Magadha. Then, of course, highlights of the 6th century BC. Then Persian invasion. So you have Persian invasion on India. Persia is the old name of Iran. What we now call Iran, those days was called Persia. So we have a Persian king who conquers few parts of India in 516 BC. And the Persians ruled over this conquered area for about 300 years, more than 300 years, more than 200 years. So whether this rule of the Persians over a part of India had any impact or not, we have to discuss that. So Persian conquest of India and its impact. Then, of course, we have the Greek invasion of India, or Alexander's invasion of India. So 326 BC, Alexander came to the borders of India, and there was a revolt, and he was forced to go back. Did this have an impact on our history? We'll be discussing that also. Alexander's Alexander's coming to India in 326 BC, and whether it had any impact on our history and culture. So this is a very small chapter, a factual chapter. So we'll discuss about it. Did you understand? Yeah, Ankush, Darius the first. Pre-Maurya, yeah, Akshara, I have told you. This period is called Pre-Maurya period, also called the age of second urbanization or the age of the Buddha. Now, why is it called age of second urbanization? Age of the Buddha, because this was the period when Lord Buddha functioned, along with, of course, Mahavira, the founders of who went on to become the founders of two religions, Buddhism and Jainism, respectively. So that's why it is also called as the age of the Buddha. It is also called age of second urbanization. Now, why is it called age of second urbanization? Very simple. What is first urbanization? All of you know that. What is first urbanization? Yeah, Harappan civilization. Very good. So Harappan civilization, Yuxin, Dipshika, Shailaja. So that is the first urbanization in our history, when new cities came into existence for the first time, like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Kalibangan, etc. That is first urbanization. And for various reasons, Harappans abandoned their cities and went away to rural areas, right? And for 1,000 years after the decline of the Harappan civilization, we did not have cities in our history. So for a bit of 1,000 years after the decline of the Harappan civilization, we did not have cities in our history. For the second time, that is in the 6th century BC, we have again cities coming into existence. And the capitals of the Mahajanapadas, understand this, the capitals of the Mahajanapadas became the principal cities of this period. The capitals of the Mahajanapadas. So there were 16 kingdoms, and the capitals of these Mahajanapadas, for example, Rajagriha. So what are the important cities of this period? Rajagriha, Pataliputra, Ayodhya, Ahichatra, Shravasti, Vaishali, Kaushambi, etc. So here, the capitals of the Mahajanapadas became the principal cities of this period, became the main cities of this period. Right? The capitals of the Mahajanapadas became the principal cities of this period. And very interestingly, what we notice is cities came to be founded far away from river valleys. So let me give you the highlights of this period, highlights of the 6th century BC. So what are the highlights? Highlights of 600 BC. So first of all, this period is called Age of Second Urbanization. Age of Second Urbanization. For the second time in our history, in the history of India, we have cities coming into existence, and the capitals of the Mahajanapadas became the principal cities, the main cities of this period. Like, for example, on your screen, as you can see, Rajagriha, Pataliputra, Ayodhya, Ahichatra, Shravasti, Vaishali, Kaushambi, etc. So this is called the age of second urbanization. This is number one. Number two is cities came to be founded not necessarily on the banks of rivers, but even far away from river valleys during this period. If you recollect the Harappan civilization, most of the cities of the Harappan civilization were founded on the banks of rivers. So it was a river valley based civilization, the Harappan civilization, because people were dependent on the source of water, that is the river. So therefore, they found cities on the banks of rivers. But during this period, in the 6th century BC, what we notice is cities came to be founded far away from river valleys also. Not necessary for city to be located on the banks of rivers. So how was this made possible? Because of the development of ring wells. Development of ring wells. So what is a ring well? You see, nowadays you have two tube wells or bore wells. So once a water source was discovered, Okay, once a water source was discovered, they will dig up a well, something like this. So this is a well. Okay, so this is a well. Let us say this is a well, and this is the water here. This is the well. So the water is here. This is the water, right? Now, what do? They would start arranging rings made of terracotta. Nowadays, they use cement rings. Even now, wherever they dig up wells, they put a cement ring around the wall of the well. Why? So that the mud doesn't cave in, the mud doesn't fall and muddy the water, or the well doesn't close down, etc. So here you have rings. These are terracotta rings. They're arranged from the base up to the top like this. Okay, so these are called ring wells. So once a water source was discovered, they began to dig up wells, and hundreds of wells came into existence. As a result, a city also came into existence because there was no dearth of water. So we have the development of ring wells during this period, which led to the birth of cities. Birth of cities far away from river valleys. This is number two, the second highlight of this period. Third highlight of this period. What is the third highlight of this period? We have nucleated village settlements. Understand this? Nucleated village settlements. Nucleated village settlements. Being established for the first time during this period. What are nucleated village settlements? With houses on one side and farms on the other. So, for example, let me draw a map. Show you. Let us say this is a village. This is the layout of a village. Okay, so let's say this is the boundary of a village, and you have the houses here. So you have people are having their houses here. Okay, so this is a part of the village. They're having houses here, and then you have fields here. One part you have houses, and then the other part you have fields like this. So these are called nucleated village settlements. Some people, a rich landlord might have his own house, might build a house on his own land, but those are exceptions than the rule. A rich landlord, a zamindar, might have his own house, might build a house on his land, on his personal property, but he might not want to stay along with the village people. But generally, those are exceptions, as you know. So here, people would live in one part of the village, and on the other part of the village, we have fields. So these are called nucleated village settlements with houses on one side and farms on the other. So these came into existence for the first time during this period. Then fourthly, we have paddy transplantation. Paddy transplantation happened during this period. Now you know what is how is paddy cultivated nowadays. So you have a nursery, okay, isn't it? For example, I'll use another page. So let's say what is paddy transplantation for people who don't know. You have so the farmer will plow a piece of land, a small piece of land, let us say half acre, 1 acre. Then he'll plow the land. Okay, then he'll water this piece of land, and then he will sprinkle seeds. He'll put the mud, manure, etc., and he'll sprinkle seeds. Okay, and he'll wait for the seed to germinate. So slowly, within a few weeks, small saplings come out. By that time, he would have got the main field ready. So this is the main field of the farmer. He will get this main field ready. So he will plow the land, right? Then he will put water. He'll add fertilizer, manure for the farm. So he'll get this main field ready, and then once the saplings sprout, that is transplanted into the main field. This is how paddy is cultivated nowadays. So what is the advantage of cultivating paddy like this? It is supposed to increase the yield. The Harappans did not know about paddy transplantation. How did the Harappans cultivate paddy? They used to make some cursory digging with a digging stick or a hoe, and then they used to sprinkle seeds. And in a few months, they used to reap a bountiful crop. But then, if you cultivate paddy like this, through plant transplantation, it is supposed to increase the yield. And throughout the world nowadays, generally paddy is cultivated through this method, what is known as paddy transplantation. Voice is not clear. Hello, Jayashri says voice is not clear. Maybe you have to Refresh, Jayashree. Roshan has no problem. Yeah, okay. Just refresh, Jayashree. So paddy transplantation happened for the first time during this period. So this is called the age of second urbanization. Then, with the development of ring wells, cities came to be founded far away from river valleys. Nucleated village settlements with houses on one side and farms on the other came into existence for the first time during this period. Paddy transplantation was practiced for the first time during this period. Fifthly, we have coins used, that is punch marked silver and copper coins. Punch marked silver and copper coins began to be used for the first time during this period with the symbols of peacock, hill, and crescent. Peacock, hill, crescent. Symbols of peacock, hill, and crescent. So you have coins which were embossed, which were punched with certain symbols like peacock, hill, crescent. They became the main currency of this period. In fact, they are the earliest surviving coinage of India, the pre-Mauryan period. Punch mark copper and silver coins are the earliest examples of surviving coinage in India. So earlier in the Vedic period, we have seen there was no coinage during the Vedic period. Gold ornaments were used as medium of exchange. Apart from the cow, they used to use gold ornaments like Shatamana, Suvarna, Pada, Nishka, etc. But for the first time, punch mark silver and copper coins became the mode of medium of exchange. Then the distinctive pottery of this period is called Northern Black Polished Ware, NBPW. What is the pottery of the Harappans called? Painted grey ware. Sorry, it is called black on red ware, isn't it? Harappan pottery is called black on red ware, BRW. So Harappans used to make pots on the wheel, then they used to put it in the kiln, bake it in the kiln, and then they used to give it a red color paint. And then once the red color dried up, they used to make designs in black. So the background was red, and on which you have black designs. That is called black on red ware. Then the pottery of the Vedic period is called PGW, painted grey ware, right? The distinctive pottery of the pre-Maurya and Maurya period is Northern Black Polished Ware, NBPW. This is the distinctive pottery of the period. Northern Black Polished Ware. Northern Black Polished Ware. Right. So these are the highlights of the 6th century BC. Clear? These are the highlights of the 6th century BC. Now, out of the 16 states, one state stood out, that is Magadha. One state stood out, that is Magad. Now, what are the reasons for the rise of Magadha? Let me discuss that, and then I'll come to the PPT, and again we will sort of discuss that also. So, what are the reasons for the rise of Magadha? Why did Magadha become the most powerful among the 16 states? That is the question. So, rise of Magadha, what is the reason for that? First of all, we have Magadha was ruled by a series of kings, very capable kings, a series of capable kings who strengthened Magadha not only through wars but through matrimonial alliances. Matrimonial alliances. So they were very capable men. Who are these kings? Kings like Bimbisar, Bimbisara, Ajatashatru, Mahapadmananda, Mahapadmananda, etc. So these kings are. It's a very factual topic, so I can run through it faster. Small topic also, interesting but small topic. So nothing much to break your head about. We'll come back here. So capable kings who strengthened Magadha both through wars and matrimonial alliances. What is matrimonial alliance? They'll marry into other princely families. So they will marry the princesses of many kingdoms, and then they will get some territory as dowry. Apart from, I'm not justifying whether what they did is right or wrong, But then they did all those things. They married into other princely families. They got the support of their father-in-law, brother-in-law, and also got some territory as dowry. So that added to the strength of Magadha. So you have a series of capable kings, and you have many dynasties which ruled Magadha. I'll come to that in some time. This is number one. Number two is Magadha lay in the mid Ganga basin. Understand this. It was in the mid Ganga basin. Mid Ganga basin. So it was a thickly forested area. It was thickly forested, and these forests were cut down. These forests were cut down and made fit for agriculture. So for the first time, virgin forest land was brought under the plow. Already, forest soil was very fertile. Now, once the forest was destroyed, once it was cut down and made fit for agriculture, it added to the uh, increase in productivity. It was also a heavy rainfall area. So you have heavy rainfall in this area. So there was no dearth of water, and the farmers of this area of Magadha could grow 2 to 3 crops in a year. And after every crop, the Magadhan kings would collect taxes from the farmers. So he will collect land revenue from the farmers. So he had a huge amount of money coming into the treasury, with which he could pay his officers and soldiers salaries. He could maintain a huge army and also have a huge bureaucracy. That added to the strength of Magadha. So again, I repeat, it was in the mid-Ganga basin, heavy rainfall area. For the first time, forest was destroyed or cut down and made fit for agriculture. So forest soil was already fertile. Coupled with that heavy rainfall area, they could grow 2 to 3 crops in a year. And after every harvest, the Magadhan king would collect taxes from the farmers, adding to the strength of Magadha. He could maintain a larger army, a larger bureaucracy, okay, adding to the strength of Magadha. This is number two. Third reason is you have natural iron ores were present in Magadha. Apart from Avanti, Avanti was another kingdom which had iron ores. But then, and no other kingdom, apart from these two kingdoms, no other kingdom had iron ores in its territory. So the Magadhan kings exploited these iron ore mines. They made iron weapons. They made iron weapons and equipped their army with iron weapons. And iron, as you all know, is stronger than copper and bronze. Then iron tools, agricultural tools were made. Iron plows, sickles, etc. were made. So that facilitated deeper plowing. Iron plow will plow deeper compared to a wooden plow. So this added to the strength of Magadha. In the wars, Magadhan army was a formidable force because they were using iron weapons. This is number three. Fourth reason is plenty of elephants were there in the forests around Magadha. So in the forests of Magadha, there were plenty of elephants. These elephants were captured, trained, and inducted into the Magadhan army. So it was elephants were like tanks of those days. Huge animal, 10 to 15 tons in weight. An elephant is a very strong animal, as you all know. And then it was used in wars. So they were armored elephants. They were armored, covered with iron, armor. So it could easily wade through marshy terrain or in the forest areas. You can easily take the elephant and go. And also it was used to pull down fort walls, fort doors, etc. So it added to the strength of Magadha. So it had an elephant corps. A huge elephant corps was there because of the availability of plentiful elephants in the forests of Magadha. So that added to the strength of Magadha. So then, of course, we have the strategic location of its capitals. Magadha had two capitals. One was Rajagriha. Rajagriha. This was the early capital of Magadha. Rajagriha, also called Giri Vraja. In Sanskrit, Giri means hill. So it was surrounded by hills on all directions. This capital of Magadha, early capital, Rajagriha or Giri Vraja, was surrounded by hills on all directions. So it was very difficult for an enemy. So it gave natural protection to the capital because it was surrounded by hills on all directions. So during those days, it was difficult for an enemy to attack and capture the capital of Magadha, that is Rajagriha, because they had to climb up the hill and then come down the hill to attack Rajagriha. By that time, the Magadhan kings would have taken all the defensive measures in order to protect their capital. Later, the capital of Magadha was shifted to Pataliputra. It was shifted to Pataliputra. So, early capital was Rajagriha, later capital was Pataliputra, present day Patna. Pataliputra is nothing but the capital of Bihar, present day Patna. It was a virtual Jaladurga. So, it was a virtual water fort, Jaladurga. Durga means fort, Jala, as you know, is water. Because Patliputra was surrounded by rivers on all directions. Ganga, you have rivers like Ganga, Gandak, Sone, and the Ghagra. So it was a virtual Jaladurga or water fort surrounded by rivers on all directions, and it was very difficult for the enemy to conquer Patliputra because of that city surrounded by rivers. And if there was an attack on Magadha, depending upon the direction in which the attack came, the Magadhan kings could, deploy their soldiers on boats and take the river route and repel the enemy, depending upon which direction the attack came. So this also added to the strength of Magadha. So it was naturally blessed. No, Magadha was naturally blessed with all these things. Apart from very capable kings, mid Ganga basin, heavy rainfall area, right, fertile soil, then iron ores, elephants, strategic location of its capitals. Then, of course, sixth one is we have trade routes to the northeast which pass through Magadha. So if you look at the map here, I'll just show you the map of Magadha. Just hold on. See here on your screen. So this is look at the map here, and this is Magadha for you. See, this is Magadha. So trade routes to the northeast pass through Magadha like this. So the kings of Magadha used to collect taxes, custom duties. Just hold on. Where's the page? So the kings of Magadha So the kings of Magadha used to collect custom duties from the merchants and traders, adding to the wealth in the treasury. So custom duties from merchants and traders was collected by the Magadhan kings. So they used to collect land revenue from the farmers. They used to collect custom duties from the merchants and traders, who used to traverse through Magadha. And of course, we have um, you know the non-Aryan people. That is, you have some tribes, forest tribes like the Magadhas, Kiratas, etc., who came to be Aryanized. Understand this? Aryanized. What is Aryanized? That is, they took to the worship of Vedic gods. They took to Vedic religion. So here, understand this. Who are the people living in the forest tribes? So when Magadha was expanding by occupying the neighboring territories, neighboring forested areas, etc., many of the forest tribes who were living in the forest came into contact with civilization. So they came into contact with civilization and they began to worship Vedic gods. No, that is called Aryanization. So they began to worship Vedic. They adopted the Vedic religion, and they were very enthusiastic to show their loyalty to Magadha. So many of these forest tribes, like the Magadhas, Kiratas, um, uh, you know, uh, they joined Magadhan administration in various capacities, civil and military capacities, and they wanted to show their loyalty to Magadha. So that also added to the strength of Magadha. Did you understand? So they became Aryanized. That is, they took to the worship of Vedic gods. So all these reasons contributed to the rise of Magadha. The Magadha became very, very strong and powerful. And whoever ruled from Patliputra, understand this very carefully. Whoever ruled from Patliputra, that is the capital of Magadha, was considered to be the most powerful king of North and Central India. And this place of Patliputra was intact till about the early medieval times, till about 7th century AD. Till about 7th century AD, this position of Patliputra was intact, and it was a prestige issue to rule from Patliputra. Um, and what we notice is in early medieval times, three powerful kingdoms: the Palas of Bengal, the Pratiharas of Madhya Pradesh, and the Rashtrakutas of Karnataka competed with each other for domination over North India. In fact, you see, Patliputra gave place to Kanauj by early medieval times, by about 750 AD or so. Kanauj replaced Patliputra as the most coveted city, most precious city. Whoever ruled from Kanauj in UP. So Kanauj took the place of Patliputra by early medieval times. Kanauj is in UP, and whoever ruled from Kanauj was considered to be the most powerful ruler of North and Central India. And three powerful dynasties competed with each other for domination over Kanauj. That is a different story. When we do early medieval India, we will talk about it. But then the place of Patliputra was intact till the 7th century AD, early part of the till the end of the 7th century AD. Are you there with me? These are the various reasons for the rise of Magadha. First point, okay. Yeah, fine. So the subject uh, expert has answered that for you. Upadhyay, Shailaja Upadhyay. Deepshika, rice was cultivated. I told you they should sprinkle seeds without having to transplant it. Right? You can still grow wild rice is was cultivated like that without transplanting it. So through conventional methods, it was cultivated. So, but the yield is not as much as it is under paddy transplantation. Deepshika, right? Yeah, kings had standing army. Ankush, you're right. Kings during this period had a standing army. In the Vedic period, both in the Rig Vedic period and the later Vedic period, they were dependent on tribal levies. But in the pre-Maurya period, kings had a standing army. Okay, right. Now, so we have looked at this part. Now we'll come back here, just discuss the PPTs, pre-Maurya period. So as I told you, 6th century BC, you have the iron implements began to be used widely, and civilization spread rapidly towards the east. And since a surplus food was generated, kings of this of this period could maintain a larger bureaucracy and an army. So surplus food grains, and also trade and commerce flourished during this period. 16 Mahajanapadas existed according to the Buddhist book Anguttara Nikaya. This Buddhist textbook gives us the list of 16 large territorial states. Most of them are monarchies, some were republics. So you can see here on your screen, these are all the monarchies, 11 monarchies. You can see here Kashi, Koshala, Anga, Magadha, Asmaka or Asaka, Avanti, Chedi, Gandhara, Vatsa, Matsya, Shurasena. These are all the republics of this period. Sorry, these are all the monarchies of this period. Right? These are all the monarchies of this period. And then we have republics, where the king was elected. King was elected in a republic. Population was comparatively small in a republic. And the king was assisted by a parliament. King was assisted by a parliament. So, what are these republics? Republics like the Kurus, Panchala, Kamboja, Vajji, Malla. These are the republics, 5 republics and 11 monarchies. So, you can see the distribution of these kingdoms on the map before you, right? So, among the 16 states, Magadha was the most powerful. Magadha became the most powerful kingdom. And the most serious rival of Magadha was Avanti. Most serious rival of Magadha was Avanti. अक्षरा क्या बताए थोड़ा बताइए क्या बताना का अक्षरा what's your query? Can you stick to English, please? There are many non-Hindi people here, Akshara. Please ask your query in English. That has already been answered, Akshara, by the the assistant, subject assistant. Custom duties are paid by traders and merchants. Not necessary. You've seen all monarchies and republics are not necessary. Out of the 16, just remember the republics. 5 republics, you remember them. Rest are all were monarchies. So it was a thickly mid Ganga basin was a thickly forested area, Bihar, Bengal area. It's a heavy rainfall area, Ankush, as you know. So it was a heavy rainfall area. Obviously, there were thick forests here. Yeah, Kuru Panchala later merged. Kuru Panchala later merged. Silk Road comes into existence much later, Deepshika. In the post Maurya period, we have the Silk Road. We'll talk about the Silk Road later. Okay, now let us discuss the PPT here on your screen. Look at the chart. I have made a chart for our convenience. So, for example, you have the kingdom of Anga. Kingdom of Anga. So, where is Anga? So, Anga is here. You can see Anga. Anga. So, it was what was the capital of Anga? Champa was the capital. It was a monarchy. Mallas were a republic. Capital of Mallas were Kushinagara and Pava. That was in northeast UP. Vajji, capital of the Vajjis was Vaishali. It was a confederacy of 8 clans. Vajjis were a confederacy of 8 clans. 8 clans had come together to form a kingdom called Vajji. And the most important clan were the Lichavis. Lichavis were the most important of the 8 clans, which comprised the Vajji kingdom. Capital of Vajji was Vaishali. Kashi, capital was Varanasi. It was a monarchy. So Kashi was later conquered by Koshala. Kashi was later conquered by Koshal. Magadha, capital was Rajgir or Girivraja, later capital Patliputra. It was a monarchy. Koshala, capital was Shravasti, and Ayodhya was an important city in this kingdom. And Koshala conquered the Sakyas of Kapilavastu. Buddha belonged to the Sakya clan. So Koshala later conquered the Sakyas of Kapilavastu. And King Prasenjit of Koshala was a contemporary of the Buddha. He in fact became a disciple of the Buddha. King Prasenjit. So important things I have given you in a chart. Just try to go through it a few times and try to recollect the important points. Vatsa, it was a monarchy. Capital was Kaushambi. Similarly, Avanti, capital Mahishmati and Ujjain. Mahishmati and Ujjain. Mahishmati might sound a bell in your mind. There was this movie called what? Bahubali. I presume most of you have seen it. And there is this capital called Mahishmati. Many of these ideas have been borrowed from movies. That's already been answered, Akshara. Okay. Yeah. So Mahishmati, Ujjain. So that was the capital of Avanti, kingdom of Avanti. Then Gandhara, capital was Takshashila. It was a monarchy. Similarly, Shaurasena, it was a monarchy. So all these details I have given you here. Go through it. Right? So out of 16 states, 11 were monarchies and 5 were republics. So here, out of these 16 states, one state becomes very, very powerful. That is Magadha. So let us look at some of the dynasties which ruled Magadha, the early dynasties which ruled Magadha. You can see on your screen, Haryanka dynasty, followed by the Shishunaga dynasty, the Nandas, and finally the Mauryas. So Mauryas is a separate chapter. We'll be discussing about these 3 dynasties, Haryanka dynasty, important kings of the Haryanka dynasty, then Shishunagas, and then the Nandas. Right? Mahishmati was the capital of Avanti. You can see one of the capitals of Avanti. Avanti, Mahishmati, later it was shifted to Ujjain in present-day Madhya Pradesh. So let us talk about the Haryanka dynasty. So it's like a story, factual information. We can go through it fast. So look here on your screen. Let me explain to you. Bimbisar. So he was the founder of the Haryanka dynasty, first important king as well as founder, Bimbisar. Right? He belonged to the Haryanka dynasty. So what was the capital of Bimbisar? Rajagriha. Rajagriha or Girivraja was his capital. Girivraja was his capital. Bimbisara strengthened Magadha both through wars. Understand this? He strengthened Magadha both through wars as well as matrimonial alliances. That is, marrying into other princely families. So he had many wives. So both through wars and matrimonial alliances, He strengthened Magadha. And we are told that he had about 500 wives. He had about 500 wives. Not an unrealistic number during those days. Not an unrealistic number at all. So he had about 500 wives, but then not everybody is important. About three are important. Among the three, one is very, very important, right? So here now we have so his first important wife was Koshala Devi. Understand this? Koshala Devi. She was the princess of Koshala. She was the princess of Koshala. And her brother was Prasenjit. Understand this? Koshala Devi was the princess of Koshala, and the king of Koshala was Prasenjit. Prasenjit was the king of Koshala. Now, when Bimbisara married Koshala Devi, she brought Kashi as dowry. So I'll use another color here. So Kashi was given as dowry to Bimbisara. So Kashi became part of Magadha. Kashi became part of Magadha. Right? Now look here. Then he also married a Lichavi princess. So his first wife was Koshala Devi, who brought Kashi as dowry. Then his second wife was Chellana. Who was a Lichavi princess. Lichavis were from the Nepal area. Okay. Yeah, fine, Parmasharmi. Don't worry about it. We'll come back here. So Koshala Devi was married by Bimbisar, and Prasenjit, the king of Koshala, gave Kashi as dowry to Bimbisar. So Kashi became part of Magadha. We are trying to trace the rapid rise of Magadha, how Magadha expanded under various kings, under various dynasties. So the first dynasty is the Haryanka dynasty, first important dynasty rather, and first important king was Bimbisar. Now, the most serious enemy or rival of Magadha was Avanti. Understand this? Avanti was the most serious rival of Magadha. Avanti. And who was the king of Avanti? Chanda Pradyota Mahasena. Chanda Pradyota Mahasena. He was the king of Avanti. And what was the capital of Avanti? Ujjain. Ujjain in Madhya Pradesh was the capital of Avanti kingdom. And Bimbisar and Chanda Pradyota Mahasena were enemies. But later they became friends. Bimbisara and Chanda Pradyota Mahasena. So how did they become friends? Let us understand this. I believe Bimbisara came to know through his spies that Chanda Pradyota Mahasena, the king of Avanti, was suffering from jaundice. So he was suffering from jaundice. Who? The king of Avanti, Chanda Pradyota Mahasena. So Bimbisar, he forgot about his enmity with Chanda Pradyota Mahasena, and what he did is he sent his personal physician called Jivaka to the court of Avanti. So Jivaka was the personal physician of Bimbisar, personal doctor. So Jivaka comes to Ujjain, the capital of Chanda Pradyota Mahasena, and introduces himself. He tells him that King Bimbisara has sent him to cure him of his jaundice. And Chanda Pradyota Mahasena agreed to be treated by Jivaka. So he agreed to be treated by Jivaka, and Jivaka treated Chanda Pradyota Mahasena, and Chanda Pradyota Mahasena was cured of his jaundice. So Chanda Pradyota Mahasena now, he erased his enmity with Bimbisar, and they became friends. So in other words, through medical diplomacy, this is called medical diplomacy. Through medical diplomacy, Bimbisar improved his relations with Avanti. Are they with me? And Bimbisar was a contemporary of Buddha. He was a disciple of Lord Buddha. He was a contemporary of Lord Buddha. Contemporary of Lord Buddha. And he is called Senia. title of Bimbisar is Senia, maker of the army, Senia. Now, Bimbisar was killed by his own son, Ajatashatru. Bimbisara's own son, Ajatashatru, killed him. So that is, Ajatashatru committed patricide. Ajatashatru wanted to become the king. So Ajatashatru committed patricide. Patricide is killing the father and snatching away the throne. So he committed patricide, and he became the next king. Are they with me? Yeah, Koshala Devi. When Bimbisar, who's this? Shailaja. When Bimbisar married Koshala Devi, she brought Kashi as dowry. So Kashi was given away to Bimbisar by the brother of Koshala Devi, Prasenjit, king of Koshala. Contemporary of Buddha means contemporary is contemporary who lived in the same time. That is called contemporary Bhimre. No, Samakalin, in Hindi, Samakalin, right? Contemporary. Did you understand Bhimre? So, Ajatashatru committed patricide. That is, he killed his father Bimbisar and snatched away the throne. Now, you need to understand Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru was the son of Bimbisara and Koshala Devi. Understand this. Ajatashatru was the son born to Bimbisar and Koshala Devi. Their son was Ajatashatru. And when Ajatashatru killed Bimbisar, uncle got very, very angry. That is, Prasenjit got very angry because his nephew has killed his father, and he has made his sister a widow. So Prasenjit took back Kashi from Magadha because Ajatashatru had killed his father. Did you understand? So Prasenjit took back Kashi from Magadha, and this angered Ajatashatru. So the next king to come to power was Ajatashatru. I'll use another board here. Ajatashatru. So let's talk about Ajatashatru. So Ajatashatru was the son of Bimbisar and Koshala Devi. So he was the one who killed his father and came to power. He has a title, Kunika. That's a title given to him, Kunika. Now, Uncle Prasenjit took back Kashi from Magadha because Ajatashatru had murdered his father, resulting in Prasenjit's sister becoming a widow. That is, Ajatashatru's mother had become a widow because of her own son. So here, what happened is, this angered Ajatashatru. So here, Ajatashatru declared war against his uncle Prasenjit. So you have war between Magadha. Understand this? War between Magadha and Koshala. Who was the king of Koshala? Prasenjit. I'll put in bracket. Prasenjit. So war between Koshala and Magadha. And this war is supposed to have lasted for how many years? 16 years, I believe. This war lasted for 16 years. Yeah, King Prasenjit was also a contemporary. Obviously, Ankush, when Bimbisara was a contemporary and Bimbisara mended his relations with Prasenjit, Prasenjit was also a contemporary of the Buddha. He also became a disciple of the Buddha. Okay, we'll come back here. So Magadha and Koshala fought for 16 years, and ultimately, I believe, it was Ajatashatru who managed to defeat his uncle. How did he defeat his uncle? His uncle Prasenjit had a minister. Understand this? His uncle Prasenjit had a minister. His name was Dirghacharayan. Dirghacharayan. So Ajatashatru bribed Dirghacharayan. He bribed him, and Dirghacharayan leaked out some vital information. With the help of that information, Ajatashatru was able to defeat his uncle Prasenjit, and he took back Kashi from his uncle, and he also married Prasenjit's daughter. Interesting, isn't it? So Ajatashatru reconquered Kashi, reconquered Kashi, and also married his uncle's daughter. Married his uncle's daughter. Ajatashatru also defeated the Lichavis of Vaishali. So he defeated the Lichavis of Vaishali. And he conquers Vaishali. So Vaishali also became part of Magadha. You remember this? Go back here. So here, one more thing I forgot to mention under Bimbisar. Bimbisar conquered Anga. So he had got Kashi as dowry, and he had also conquered Anga. So Anga was conquered by Bimbisar, right? So Anga was conquered by Bimbisar. So Anga became part of Magadha. Then later Ajatashatru reconquered Kashi from his uncle and also conquered Vaishali. And I believe Ajatashatru used two new war weapons when he fought against his uncle Prasenjit of Koshala and also the Lichavis of Vaishali. He used two new war weapons. So two new war weapons. What are the two new war weapons he used? One was called Mahashila Kantaka. Mahashila Kantaka. I'll show you the picture on your screen. Just hold on. Mahashila Kantaka. And the other was Rathamushala. Rathamushala. So what is this Mahashila Kantaka? Maha, as you know, is large. Maha is large. Shila is a stone. Kantaka is a catapult. So this was a war machine which used to throw huge boulders at the enemy. So look here on your screen. See this? On the left of your screen, you can see Mahashila Kantaka. If you have seen the movie, Bahubali movie or Gladiator movie, have you seen Gladiator movie or even Bahubali movie? They show this war weapon called Mahashila Kantaka. Lichavis were a tribe, Akshara, Lichavis of Vaishali. So Romans also used to use this. Jivaka was the physician. Akshara Rani. Jivaka was the royal physician of Bimbisar. Yeah, Karna was the king of Anga in Mahabharata. Okay, Gunjan, fine, you're right. Angaraj Karna, you're right. Okay, Mahashila Kantaka. Then what is Rathamushala? Again, I'll take the help of movies, but I presume most of you might have not seen this movie. It's a very old movie called Ben-Hur. It's a black and white movie. I'm sure you wouldn't have been born, all of you. Ben-Hur, in that Ben-Hur movie, they show, or have you seen the movie Gladiator, of Russell Crowe, Gladiator? You have the chariot, and the chariot has its wheel. So they would have fixed something like a mixie blade. You have your mixer in your house, in your kitchen. So something like that. That blade is fixed to the hub of the chariot. So when the chariot is moving, when it's running, those blades are also turning, and they are protruding out. They're pretty long blades. They're protruding outside the chariot. When you bring those blades in contact with another chariot's wheels, that will destroy the spokes of the enemy chariot, and that will result in the enemy chariot capsizing. That's called Rathamushala. Did you understand? Rathamushala. So he uses two new war weapons, Mahashila Kantaka, a catapult which threw huge boulders at the enemy, and Rathamushala. I have put the picture here. You can see here something like a blade, something like a mixie blade attached to the chariot hub. And when you bring that into contact with another enemy chariot wheel, it'll result in the chariot wheel getting destroyed. So he's supposed to have used two new war weapons. I'll come back to the page here. You can see Mahashala Kantaka, Rathamushala. Now, Ajatashatru, understand this, so the wheel of time had come full circle. Ajatashatru was killed by his own son Udayan. So Udayan killed his father. So the wheel of time had come full circle. जैसा करोगे वैसा भरोगे, as it is said in as it is said in Hindi. So Udayan, his own son, killed his father and snatched the throne. So Udayan, in other words, committed patricide, and he comes to power. Udayan. So the next king was Udayan. So Bimbisar succeeded by Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru succeeded by his son Udayan. Now this was a UPSC question asked. Udayan. Udayan is the person who built Pataliputra. He built the city of Pataliputra. Built Pataliputra. And he made it his capital. So he shifted the capital from Rajagriha to Pataliputra. Udayan. Right? And Udayan himself was killed by his own son. Very interesting. So here, Udayan, after Udayan, we have three kings committing patricide. Three kings committing patricide. Three kings committed patricide. That is the princes killing their own fathers, Yuvarajas killing their kings, their fathers, and becoming the next king. So three kings committed patricide after Udayan. People of Magadha were fed up of this. Yuvarajas, princes killing their own fathers and becoming kings. And during this period, when princes were snatching away the throne from their fathers and becoming the next king, there was a minister called Shishunaga who was running the affairs of Magadha. Shishunaga. So he was a minister of Magadha. He was running the administration when the princes were killing their fathers and becoming the next kings. So people of Magadha thought that Shishunaga is the best person to lead them. So therefore what they did is they elected Shishunaga as their next king. People elected Shishunaga as their king. As a result, this was the end of the Haryanka dynasty and the beginning of the Shishunaga dynasty. Are you there with me? Patricide is, Akshara, patricide is killing your own father. Killing your own father. That's called patricide. Can I move on? All of you, are you clear? So, factual information. So, this was the end of the Haryanka dynasty, and then we have the coming of the Shishunaga dynasty. So, I'll discuss this. Just hold on. So, we have the Shishunaga dynasty. Shishunaga. Shishunagas, the founder was, of course, Shishunaga. He shifted, understand this, he shifted the capital to Vaishali. Shishunaga shifted the capital to Vaishali. So, from where you might ask? From Patliputra, obviously. Under Bimbisar and Ajatashatru, the capital of Magadha was Rajagriha. Udayan made Patliputra the capital. So, capital was shifted from Rajagriha to Patliputra. When Shishunaga came to power, he shifted the capital to Vaishali. So, Vaishali became the capital of Magadha. But then the successor of Shishunaga was a person called Kal Ashoka. Kal Ashoka, or also called Kakavarnin. Kakavarnin. This Kal Ashoka reshifted the capital back to Patliputra. Reshifted the capital to Pataliputra. Reshifted the capital back to Patliputra. And Kalashoka is a person who conducted the second Buddhist council. So when we do art and culture, we'll talk about it. There were 4 councils or meetings which took place after the death of the Buddha. These are called 4 councils, first, second, third, and fourth. The second Buddhist council was conducted by Kalashoka. So he was the king when the second Buddhist council took place. So he was the patron king. So conducted the second Buddhist council. Which took place at Vaishali. It took place at Vaishali. So the king was Kal Ashoka or Kakavarnin. And Shishunagas are supposed to have conquered Avanti. Understand this? So Avanti was conquered by Shishunaga. So Avanti became part of Magadha. You go back here. Anga was conquered by Bimbisar, isn't it? Anga was conquered by Bimbisar. Then Ajatashatru reconquered Kashi, and then he reconquered Kashi, and then he conquered Vaishali from the Lichavis. So Kashi and Vaishali again became part of Magadha. Then we have Shishunaga who conquered Avanti and added it to Magadha. So you have Magadha expanding. Now, Kalashoka was killed by his minister, by his commander called Mahapadmananda. Mahapadmananda, his Senapati, killed him and founded the Nanda dynasty. So the next dynasty to come to power in Magadha were the Nandas. So Haryanka dynasty followed by the Shishunaga dynasty, then the Nandas. So Mahapadmananda, the Senapati of Kalashoka, killed him and founded the Nanda dynasty, Nandas. So the founder was, of course, Mahapadmananda. Founder was Mahapadmananda. And Mahapadmananda is called the first historical emperor of India. He is called the first historical emperor of India. So Nandas had a huge empire. They brought many parts of North India under their control, the Nandas. And he is considered to be the first historical emperor of India, Mahapadmananda. And the Nandas added Koshala and Kalinga to Magadha. So Koshala and Kalinga was conquered by the Nandas. Koshala and Kalinga. Koshala and Kalinga were added to Magadha by the Nandas. The last Nanda ruler was Dhanananda. The last Nanda ruler was Dhanananda. And during the time when Dhanananda was ruling the Nanda Empire, we have Alexander coming into India. So Dhanananda has been called Agrams. Greek historians call Dhanananda as Agrams. And across the river, so Alexander comes up to the river Bias. We'll come to Alexander in some time. So Alexander comes up to the river Bias, and across the river Bias, we have the empire of the Nandas. The king was Dhanananda. He was the last Nanda ruler, Dhanananda. And Dhanananda was overthrown by none other than Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya, with the assistance of Chanakya, with the help of Chanakya, they both plotted the end of the Nandas. So Chandragupta Maurya killed Dhanananda and conquered Patliputra and established the Mauryan Empire. And Mauryas is a separate chapter. Are you with me? Gunjan, Shishunaga was a Brahmin. I'm not very sure about that, Gunjan. Whether Shishunagas were Brahmins, I'm not very sure about that. एक बार recall करिए अक्षरा. Okay, I told you recall what to recall here. Okay, so first dynasty was the Haryanka dynasty, which first important dynasty was the Haryanka dynasty. We have the Bharadvaja dynasty. Actually, we have the first dynasty to rule Magadha was the Bharadvaja dynasty, followed by the Haryanka dynasty. First important king was Bimbisar. So Bimbisar conquered Anga and he improved his relations with Avanti when he sent his personal physician Jivaka to the court of Chandapradyota Mahasena of Avanti. And he strengthened strengthened Magadha both through wars and matrimonial alliances. He married Koshala Devi, the princess of Koshala. And when he married Koshala Devi, he got Kashi as dowry from Prasenjit, the king of Koshala. The brother of Koshala Devi was Prasenjit, who gave Kashi as dowry to Bimbisar. Bimbisar was killed by his own son Ajatashatru. That resulted in his uncle, Ajatashatru's uncle Prasenjit, taking back Kashi from Magadha. That resulted in Ajatashatru declaring war against his uncle. He declared war against his uncle, Prasenjit. This war is supposed to have lasted for 16 years. He uses through two new war weapons, and also he bribed his uncle's minister and took out vital information, and then he was able to defeat his uncle Prasenjit, and he married his uncle's daughter and took back Kashi. He also defeated the Lichavis of Vaishali. So he added Vaishali to Magadha. So Anga was conquered by Bimbisar. Vaishali was added to Magadha by Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru was himself killed by his son Udayan. And Udayan is the person who built Patliputra, who founded the city of Patliputra and made Patliputra his capital. Three more kings after Udayan committed patricide. That resulted in people of Magadha electing Shishunaga as their king, because he was the one who was running the administration at that point in time when the princes were killing their fathers and becoming the next kings. So people of Magadha elected Shishunaga as their next king, and Shishunagas come to power. Totally, there were 12 kings who ruled for 70 years, I believe. 12 kings of the Shishunaga dynasty totally ruled for 70 years. The founder was, of course, Shishunaga, who conquered Avanti. He shifted the capital to Vaishali. But then Kal Ashoka or Kakavarnin, his successor, reshifted the capital back to Patliputra. And during his time, we have the second Buddhist council which took place at Vaishali. Kal Ashoka was killed by his commander-in-chief, Mahapadmananda, who founded the Nanda dynasty. So Mahapadmananda is called the first historical emperor of ancient India. And the last Nanda ruler was Dhanananda, during whose period Alexander came to India. And Dhanananda was killed by Chandragupta Maurya, who founded the Mauryan dynasty. Clear? Agrams that's what the Greek sources call Dhanananda, agrams. So traditionally, the first historical emperor he's called Chakravarti. His first historical emperor is, in our history books, he is the first Chakravarti of India. That is Mahapadmananda, who really ruled, not a mythological character, who was a real character. That is called historical emperor. Okay, Laghima. Clear. This is about the rise of Magadha, an important dynasty. So we'll quickly recap here on your screen. You can see Haryanka dynasty, Bimbisar. Come back here on your screen, all of you. Bimbisar, he was a founder of the dynasty, contemporary of Lord Buddha, titled Senia, captured Anga. Then he strengthened his position by matrimonial alliances, married the princesses of Koshala, Vaishali, Madra. His first wife was Koshala Devi, sister of King Prasenjit of Koshala, who brought Kashi as dowry. He also married Chellana, the Lichavi princess. Then he improved his relations with Chanda Pradyota Mahasena, who was suffering from jaundice. So he sent Jivaka to cure him of jaundice, and that resulted in good relations between Avanti and Magadha. Capital of Magadha was Rajgir or Girivraja. Bimbisar was killed by his own son Ajatashatru. So he was murdered by his son Ajatashatru, and his uncle Prasenjit took back Kashi from Magadha. So Ajatashatru declared war against his uncle. He reconquered Kashi, married his uncle's daughter, titled Kunika. Right? So he defeated both Kashi and Koshala, and he won over his uncle's minister Dirghacharayan, who leaked out vital information, and he defeated his uncle, married his uncle's daughter after that. And he also conquered Vaishali. He uses two new war weapons, Mahashila Kantaka, Rathamushala. So we have discussed all these things. So Ajatashatru added Kashi and Vaishali to Magadha. Ajatashatru was killed by his own son Udayan, and Udayan is the person who built the city of Patliputra and made it his capital. So three more kings committed patricide after Udayan. Therefore, people elected Shishunaga as their king. So the next dynasty to come to power were the Shishunagas. Totally, there were 12 kings who ruled for 70 years. And the founder was Shishunaga, who conquered Avanti. He shifted the capital to Vaishali. Then the second important king was Kala Ashoka or Kakavarnin, who shifted the capital back to Patliputra. And he hosted the second Buddhist council. His commander-in-chief, Mahapadmananda, killed him and founded the Nanda dynasty. So, founder of the Nandas was Mahapadmananda, called the first historical emperor of India, known by various titles, Ekarat, Mahapadmapati, Sarvakshatrantaka, second Parushuram, etc. And he might have conquered Koshala. So they also conquered Kalinga, Nandas. The last Nanda ruler was Dhanananda. Alexander came during his period, and Dhanananda has been called Agrams. And Dhanananda was overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya, who established the Mauryan dynasty. So here, you can see here, I made a chart for your convenience. You see here, put it in a box. Bimbisara conquered Anga. Ajatashatru reconquered Kashi and conquered Vaishali and added it to Magadha. Shishunagas conquered Avanti. Nandas conquered Koshala and Kalinga. Those, you have the rapid expansion of Magadha like this. Are you there with me, all of you? Yeah, Ankush will come to Maurya. Just hold on. Not important, Deepshika. Third wife, not important. You just remember the first wife, Koshala Devi. So Madra, daughter of the Madra, third wife, she was from Punjab area. Deepshika, right? So don't worry about all his wives. First wife is important. Then causes for the expansion of Magadha, you can see on your screen, rich iron deposits. I've already explained to you. So plenty of iron deposits were there, which was used for both defense and agriculture. War weapons were made of iron. Agricultural tools and implements, iron plows began to be made of iron, which facilitated deeper plowing. It had strategic capitals like Rajagir and Patliputra. Rajagir was surrounded by hills on all directions, and Patliputra was a virtual Jaladurga, water fort. Third is, it was in the mid-Ganga basin, heavy rainfall area, rich alluvium soil, so they could grow 2 to 3 crops in a year. And after every harvest, the Magadhan kings would collect taxes, land revenue from the farmers, adding to the strength of Magadha. You could have a larger army, also pay his officers and soldiers salaries, and keep them happy. Then trade routes to the northeast passed through Magadha, so they could collect custom duties from the merchants and traders. Use of elephants. You have an elephant corps in the Magadhan army. Hundreds of elephants were captured and trained, inducted into the Magadhan army, adding to the strength of Magadha. And of course, you have the unorthodox character of Magadhan society, Mauryan society. Kiratas, Magadhas came to be Aryanized. They were all forest tribes. So once forests were cut down in order to make it into agricultural lands, in order to found new cities. So all these forest tribes came to be Aryanized. That is, they took to Vedic religion, and they were very enthusiastic to show their loyalty to Magadha. So they joined Magadhan administration in various civil and military capacities, adding to the strength of Magadha. This is another reason for the rise of Magadha. Clear, no, all of you? Previous slide. Nancy, this is the slide you're asking for. So I have explained to you the reasons for the rise of Magadha. Go through it later. Clear? So rapid expansion, I told you. We have just now discussed. Under every king, you have new areas being conquered. I put a chart also, isn't it? You see that, Nancy, on your screen. Anga was conquered by Bimbisar, Kashi and Vaishali by Ajatashatru, etc. So that way, she began to rapidly expand at the cost of her neighboring kingdoms. Clear, Nancy? Are you there with me? Clear? Yeah. सब याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है अक्षरा. You please revise and then look at the questions at the end of this chapter. So whatever I have told you, just remember those things. I have given you the highlights of the 6th century BC. I have given you the reasons for the rise of Magadha, important dynasties which ruled Magadha, and the kings who were responsible for expanding Magadha. So just that much you remember. Right? So highlights of the 6th century BC, you can see here. We have Buddhist textbooks and Panini's Ashtadhyayi, which are the main source of information for the 6th century BC. This is called age of second urbanization. So for the second time in our history, you have cities coming into existence. And these cities were founded far away from river valleys. This was made possible because of ring wells. And the capitals of the Mahajanapadas became the principals of the cities of this period, like the Hastinapur, Ahichatra, Kaushambi, Shravasti, etc. You can see here the picture of a ring well. These are ring wells. You can see here next to each other. Of course, they have got filled up with mud and other things, other debris. But when excavations were done, so many ring wells were found. So this led to the birth of cities far away from river valleys. Then this period saw the use of metal money, punch mark coins of silver and copper. Many symbols are found embossed on those coins, like peacock, hill, crescent. So this became the principal currency of this period: punch mark, silver, and copper coins. So you have expansion of trade and commerce for that reason, because you have currency which was used as a medium of exchange. Then new created village settlements with houses on one side and farms on the other came into existence for the first time during this period. Paddy transplantation, called Ropana, also started during this period. So you can see here, women are transplant. Even now, women are the ones who do the paddy transplantation. So this is the nursery. You can see this is the nursery, and the saplings are transplanted into the main field by women. So if you grow paddy like this through transplantation method, it increases the yield. That is called ropana. Paddy transplantation was called ropana, and the distinctive pottery of this period is called northern black polished ware. So distinctive pottery of this period. So please understand, in a monarchy, so here during this period, you have 11 monarchies. So 11 monarchies were there. So you have a parisha. What is a parisha? Parisha was a small body of Brahmins. Small body of Brahmins. They advised the king. So they advised the king. In monarchies, kings had a standing army. Whereas in a republic, the king was elected. King was elected. And we have a Gana Parishad. Understand this? A parliament variously called as Gana Parishad or Shantagara. Shantagara advised the king. So this parliament called Gana Parishad or Shantagara was the one which advised the king. So you could have a republic consisting of only one tribe. So you could have a republic of only one tribe. The dominant no, that republic was named after the dominant tribe of that area. For example, we have the Mallas, the kingdom of the Mallas, Kollis. These are all kingdoms which were named after the dominant tribe of that area. Or you could have a number of tribes, a confederacy of tribes. For example, the Vajjis. Vajjis were a group of 8 clans. And the most important were the Lichavis. So 8 clans had come together to form the Vajji kingdom. So you could have a republic with only one tribe, or you could have a republic with a group of tribes. And so you see you have generally republics in the Indus Basin and in the foothills of the Himalayas. In the Indus Basin and in the foothills of the Himalayas, you have republics. But slowly, they made way to monarchies. Slowly, they began to lose their importance and they made way to monarchies. So this is about this chapter, this particular topic, right? So all these details are here. Go through it. Whatever I have just now discussed is there here in the PPTs. So you could have republics consisting of only one tribe, like the Sakyas, Kollis, Mallas, or you could have a republic consisting of a number of tribes, like the Vrijis. So republics slowly disappeared in the east due to the rise of strong monarchies like Magadha. So are you there with me, all of you? Clear? Can you raise your hands? Till now, so far so good. Can we go to the next section, that is Persian and Greek invasion on India? Clear? Right. No doubts? All clear. Right. Now let us come to Persian and Greek invasions of India. Persian and Greek invasion of India. Now let me first discuss the Persian invasion of India. Persia. Understand this? Persia. Persia is the old name for Iran. What we now call Iran, those days was called Persia. This is the old name of Iran, Persia. And there was a dynasty ruling here. Understand this. There was a dynasty ruling this country called Persia. This is the Achaemenid dynasty. Achaemenid. This is the dynasty, Achaemenid dynasty, which ruled Persia. And what was the capital of the Achaemenid rulers of Persia? Persepolis. Capital was Persepolis. This was the capital of the kings of Persia, Persepolis. Now, we have in the year 516 BC, understand this, in 516 BC, a Persian king called Darius the First attacks India, and he conquers a few parts of India. He conquers Punjab, northwest frontier province, which is now in Pakistan, and Sindh. End of the FP is northwest frontier province. Northwest frontier province. So he conquers Punjab, northwest frontier province, and Sindh. And this conquered territory, understand this, this conquered territory becomes the 20th satrapi or province of his empire. So he had a huge empire, and this conquered area, Punjab, northwest frontier province, and Sindh, becomes his 20th province or satrapi of his empire. And the total revenue from this area, the total revenue from this 20th satrapi amounted to 1/3 of the revenues from his Asiatic provinces. 1/3 revenue from his Asiatic provinces. So this area was a very lucrative area for Darius the First, the king of Persia. Satrapi's province, Shruti, Satrapi's province. Let me use a thinner pencil. Satrapi, Satrepy. Satrapi. Did you get me that Akshara, Shruti? Satrapi is a province, 20th province of his empire. And the revenue of this 20th province amounted to 1/3 of the revenue from his Asiatic provinces. Now, clear till here? So in 516 BC, Darius, the king of Persia, Darius the First, conquers Punjab, northwest frontier province, and Sindh. And the Persians ruled over this area for more than 200 years. For more than 200 plus years, they ruled over this area. Now, what we need to understand is whether this had an impact on our history and culture. Whether this rule of the Persians over a part of India had any impact on our history and culture. That's what is necessary from the exam point of view. Of course, it did have an impact. So let us understand what impact it had on our history and culture. So for more than 200 years, the Persian conquest of a part of India did have an impact. First of all, understand this. Not Satrari Akshara, Satrapi. Satrapy. Satrapi is a province. Like India is divided into states into divisions. Many states have divisions and district, then taluk or a subdivision. Then you have village. Like that, empire subdivided into provinces, subdivided into districts, or sometimes division, then district, like that. Did you understand Akshara? That was his 20th province. It became the 20th province of his empire. That means there were already 19 provinces. This newly conquered territory became the 20th province. Demare, did you understand? Okay, now we'll come back here. Now, what is the impact it had on our history and culture? First of all, understand this. You see, the Persians used to use stone in architecture. Persians used to use stone in architecture. And they used to install pillars. Look here on your screen. Pillars like this. It looks something like this. When we do art and culture, we will discuss in detail. So this is the picture of a Persian pillar. These are grooves. Now, the topmost part of a Persian pillar is called capital. These are grooves. There are holes in the pillars, and this is a foundation. Now, on top of these pillars, understand this, they used to depict humans, animals, or composite creatures. So please understand these pillars, as you can see on your screen, were installed by the Persian kings in their palaces. So they were either supporting the roof of a palace or they were installed on top of their palaces. Such pillars were supporting the roof of a palace, the ceiling of a palace, or they were installed on top of their palaces. These pillars are made of stone, right? And on top of those pillars, they used to install either humans, statues of human beings, or statues of animals, or composite creatures. What is the meaning of composite creatures? For example, a crouching lion. Imagine a crouching lion, a lion in a crouching position. It has the face of a man, but the body of a lion. Or you could have a horse with wings. A horse is shown on top of the capital, on top of the pillar, right? And that horse is shown with wings as if the horse is flying. Such imaginary creatures are called composite creatures. And they used to polish these stone pillars. The Mauryas borrowed this idea of using stone from the Achaemenid rulers of Persia. They borrowed this idea of using stone from the rulers of Persia. So, if you look at an Ashokan pillar, you see here on your screen, I will make an attempt to draw an Ashokan pillar. Yeah. So, don't take my drawing seriously, but then I think I can convey the information to you. That's more important because I'm not a artist. I'm more of a history teacher. Okay, so this is an Ashokan pillar, slightly tapering towards the top, as you can see here. It is slightly tapering towards the top. Then on top of this pillar, this is made of stone. We'll deal with this when we come there. This is called a shaft or a column. Understand this? This is called a shaft or a column. Then you have a inverted lotus here. You take a lotus flower and you put it ulta. So it looks something like this. So this is a lotus flower. This is a lotus flower. Okay. This is called inverted lotus. inverted lotus, sometimes called Persepolitan bell. Persepolitan bell. Then on top of this inverted lotus or Persepolitan bell, you have the Dharma Chakra of Ashoka. Ashoka's Dharma Chakra, consisting of 24 spokes. Now, please understand it's a round pillar. So, imagine this is a round pillar. I'll show you the picture, real picture. So, this is a pillar. Imagine this. Ashokan pillar is round in shape. So, there are four chakras, four Ashoka chakras in the four corners. Since the pillar is round, you have four chakras in the four corners. And around this chakra, around these chakras, but between two chakras, we have some animals. Understand this. You have what are the animals um, around this chakras? You have elephant, lion, horse, and a bull. So between two chakras, you have one animal. You have either one elephant, then one lion, and one horse, and one bull. And on top of the chakra, that is the Dharma Chakra of Ashoka, we have either one lion or four lions, as seen at Sanchi and Sarnath. So this is the lion, let us say, this is the lion. Okay, so this has been depicted on top of this. So either you have one or four lions, as at Sanchi and Sarnath, either one or four lions, or you could have one elephant or one horse or one bull. And together, this is called capital. You can see here, together, this is called capital. And whatever Ashoka wanted to convey to his people, he got it written here. So this is so the shaft or column is monolithic. Understand this? The shaft or column is monolithic. It is about 30 to 40 feet in height. It is 30 to 40 feet in height. 30 to 40 tons in weight. 30 to 40 feet in height, 30 to 40 tons in weight. And the topmost part of an Ashokan pillar is about 10 feet in height. It's about 10 feet. This part is about 10 feet in height. And 10 tons in weight. 10 tons in weight. So you see, the Mauryas borrowed the idea of using stone in architecture from the Persians. And the Mauryas also began to install pillars. And on top of their pillars, they began to depict animals. For example, one lion or four lions. Four lions are only there at two places, Sanchi and Sarnath. In all other places, you have only one lion. Or you could have one elephant or one bull or one horse. Did you understand? So, and these pillars are made of stone. Ashokan pillars are made of stone. They also used to polish their stone pillars, which shine like mirrors. So this is the impact. This is one impact of Persian conquest of a part of India. Persians used to use stone in architecture. The Mauryas borrowed the idea of stone from the Persians, and they began to install stone pillars. And they also began to make stone palaces. Are you there with me, all of you? Clear? This is one impact. Yuxin, let me, 7 o'clock, I'll give you a break. Just hold on. That is Aditya. Aditya has asked for a break. Aditya, let me finish this. Aditya, just hold on. In the middle, I don't want to give you a break because again I have to start from scratch. It becomes very distracting. Deepshika, you can see here, you have a shaft or a column that's about 30 to 40 feet in height. Okay, that's about 30 to 40 feet in height, 30 to 40 tons in weight, and this is monolithic. The shaft or column is monolithic. On top of the shaft or column, you have an inverted lotus or a bell-shaped lotus. I'll show you the real picture. You can see here. Just hold on. Look here on your screen. Look at the Ashokan pillar on your screen. This is the shaft or the column. This is the shaft or the column. So this is the shaft or the column. This is the Persepolton bell or inverted lotus. Lotus flower in an put in an ulta, put ulta or inverted lotus or bell-shaped lotus. It's also called Persepolton bell. Persepolis was the capital of the Persian emperors. This was the type of design which the Persians used to adopt. Mauryas copied the design from the Persians. So this is inverted lotus or Persepolton bell. This is the abacus. You can see this is the abacus. Abacus consists of 4 dharma chakras with animals in relief. The four animals, either one. So you have one elephant, one horse, one bull, and one lion, all around the 4 chakras. Then the topmost part is either one lion or 4 lions, and then or one elephant or one horse or one bull. And together, this is called capital. You see, this is called capital. Together, this is called capital. I have put other pictures for your convenience. You can see here, this is the shaft or the column. This is the Persepolton bell. This is the abacus. Then you have sculpture of lion. And then together, this is called capital. In the original Sarnath lion capital, there was a metal wheel. On top of those lions, there was a metal wheel, I believe. That wheel has fallen off. We don't know where it has gone. This is the picture of an Ashokan pillar. And they borrowed this idea of installing pillars using stone and installing pillars from the Persians. This is one impact. Are you there with me? Yeah. Okay. Then, so what are the other impact? You can see other impact is as follows. You can just hold on. So this is number one. Second is you see the Persian kings. Understand this? Persian kings used to keep women bodyguards called Yavanis. So they used to keep women bodyguards. Women bodyguards called Yamanis. And women are supposed to be vicious fighters. They may not be physically strong. There are some women, there are exceptions though, like Mary Kom. But then generally, nature has given less physical strength, body weight to a woman when compared to a man. But then they are very vicious fighters, supposedly, women. If you see WWF, you see they pull each other's hair also. So, Persian emperors used to keep women bodyguards, and the Mauryan emperors began to copy this. They also began to hire women bodyguards. Who? The Mauryan emperors. So, this is number 2. Third is you have, understand this Kharoshti script. Kharoshti script was introduced in northwest India by the Persians. And Kharoshti script is written from right to left. It is written from right to left. And Urdu is supposed to have derived from Kharoshti script. I repeat, the Persians introduced Kharoshti script in the northwest portions of India. That is which area they had conquered: Punjab, northwest frontier province, and Sindh. And Kharoshti script is written from right to left. How do we write? We write from left to right. Brahmi script is from left to right, like the way we write. Whereas Kharoshti script is ulta, from right to left. And Urdu is a derivation from the Kharoshti script. This is another impact. You just understand. And of course, fourth impact is you have traders, then saints, writers, philosophers moving across each other's boundaries. So Persian, from India, you have philosophers, traders, merchants going to the area conquered by the Persians, and similarly, those people coming to this side of India. So you have cultural contacts between Persians and Indians, and many of the Indians were enrolled in the Persian army. Many Indians came to be enrolled in the Persian army. So this is the impact of the Persian conquest of a part of India. And are you there with me? So look here on your screen. So here, when Magadha was expanding at the cost of her neighbors, we have in the northwest Gandhara and Cambodia, which were first conquered by the Persians and later by the Greeks. So Achaemenid emperors of Persia, Iran, they conquered northwest India. We have Darius the First, who conquers Punjab, northwest frontier province, and Sindh in 516 BC. This conquered area became his 20th province or satrapi, and the total revenue from this particular province amounted to one third of the total revenue of Iran from Asian provinces. So this is Darius the First, the Great of Persia. So Indians, what is the impact? Indian subjects were enrolled in the Persian army. Persian coins began to circulate in that conquered area. Khoroshti script was introduced in the northwest frontier province by the Persians. Then Persians influenced Indian architecture. We have Ashokan pillars with bell-shaped lotus, but that is Persepolitan bell, lion or bull capital. They are of pure Persian origin. Use of winged animals as capitals again was borrowed from Persian emperors, from the Persian architects. Then we have lustrous polish given to Ashokan pillars. That was another technique which the Indian artists learned from the Persians. Persian women bodyguards were kept by women bodyguards were hired by Persian kings, and the Mauryas also began to keep women bodyguards. And traders, scholars, philosophers moved in, across each other's boundaries. This is the impact of the Persian conquest of a part of India. Are you there with me, all of you? Clear? Clear? So then, no, we don't have composite creatures, but then you can. This is a four lions standing back to back. Again, is an imaginary animal, isn't it? Four lions standing back to back is more imaginary than real. But then otherwise, there's no composite creatures in Mauryan, capitals. There's no man lion mixture of man lion. You have only animals shown. But then only at Sanchi and Sarnath, we have four back-to-back lions. Okay, so this is about the impact of Persian conquest of a part of India. Now let us come to Alexander's invasion of India. Alexander's invasion of India. So what do you know about Alexander? Anybody here? What do you know about Alexander? Bhimare the Great. Okay. Greek emperor. Prince of Macedonia. Okay, Nancy, very good. Alexander fought against Puru. Okay. Ankush says died at a young age with disease. So we'll come to that. Okay, Sikandar. Deepshika says Sikandar. Okay. Okay, fine. So let us talk about Alexander. But then if I start, I'll not be able to finish in 10 minutes. We have 10 minutes for the break to go. Can we come back after a break and then begin with Alexander? Or you want me to start here again? Yeah, can we take a break now and then come back and do Alexander? Because there'll be continuity in the class. Otherwise, it becomes difficult for me to finish in 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll go for a break now and come back in 15 minutes time. So it is about 6:50 now. We'll meet at 7:05. Meet at 7:05. We'll meet at 7:05. Okay. Yeah. So we'll come back at 7:05. 15 minutes break. Rather 16 minutes. So we'll come back after a 15 minutes break. Carry on. Good evening. Can we continue? Good evening, all of you. Ankush, Shruti, Akshara. Can we continue? Okay. So let us talk about Alexander the Great. On your screen, you see here, this is the map of the Kingdom of Macedonia. This is ancient Greece for you to the left of your screen. And this was the Kingdom of Macedonia, Macedon. So in ancient Greece, we had a number of city-states. We had a number of city-states, small city-states, such as Sparta, Athens, Macedonia, etc. So Alexander was the king of Macedonia. He, in fact, succeeded his father. His father's name was Philip II. His father's name was Philip II. He was the king of Macedonia. You can see here, this is Macedonia for you, Macedon. Now, if you look at the map here, during those days, the Persians were very, very strong. The Achaemenid rulers of Persia. Just now we have discussed about Persian conquest of a part of India. So ancient Iran or Persia was ruled by the Achaemenid rulers. They were very, very powerful. Achaemenid dynasty was ruling Persia, and Achaemenid kings of Persia had conquered a number of lands from the Greeks. So they had conquered a number of Greek lands. And the father of Alexander, Philip II, who was the king of Macedonia, had one ambition. His ambition was to reconquer all those areas which are of the Greeks, which had fallen into the hands of the Persians. So Philip II, Alexander's father, Philip II, had organized an army. And this army was equipped with a very novel weapon called the sarissa. Sarissa. What is a sarissa? It was a 6-meter long spear, a pike. So he had organized an army which was equipped with sarissa. Sarissa is a 6-meter long pike or a spear. So that would be 6 meters, would be about 16 to 18 feet in length. And he had a number of phalanxes in his army. Phalanxes. What is a phalanxes? What's a phalanx? Phalanx is, so here 16, so here 8, so here it was 16 by 16. That is 16 into 16. One phalanx consisted of 256 men. Okay, so it was something like this: 8 men. So 8 men like this, and then it had 16 ranks here. And each of these men held a long spear called the sarissa. And they also had a small shield with them. So it was a very formidable army which he had established. So he had hundreds of phalanxes like this. Each phalanx consisted of 256 men in them. So the movement of the phalanx was very small. It was very short. It was very slow. The movement of the phalanxes was very slow, but it was sure. Nobody could stand before the phalanx. Once the phalanx moved, it was very difficult to stop the soldiers because they held these long spears and you couldn't even make contact with those soldiers because the spear was so long. So they could take down anything which came in front of them. So he had organized an army consisting of so many phalanxes, and each of those soldiers had this long pike or spear called sarissa. So Philip II's ambition was to reconquer all those areas which the Greeks had lost to the Persians. Now, Philip II had many wives. Philip II had many wives, and from them many sons. But Alexander was his favorite. So we are told that when Alexander was about 10 years old, he was a 10-year-old boy, one of the nobles brought a gift to Philip II. This was a beautiful black horse, a black stallion called Bucephalus. The name of this horse was Bucephalus. Bucephalus means ox head. It had a very unusually large head. It looked like the head of an ox. This horse was a beautiful animal, young animal, black color, black stallion with a natural white star on its forehead. It had a natural white star on its forehead. And looking at this beautiful horse, many of the nobles under Philip II asked permission from Philip II to ride that horse. So Philip had no problem. He asked them, you can go and try riding this horse. Now, whenever they try to mount this horse, I believe the horse would throw off the rider. It would not allow anybody to ride him. And Alexander, young Alexander, who was just 10 years old, was watching all this from a distance. And he had noticed something which nobody had noticed. So he asked his father, Father, can I try riding this horse? And he was a prince, he was trained to ride a horse, so his father had no objection. So Alexander is supposed to have slowly walked up to the horse. And then he spoke to the horse. God knows what he spoke, but he spoke to the horse, stroked the horse. And while doing so, he slightly, took the horse away from the sunlight, away from the sun. What he had noticed was, I believe, when the horse saw its own shadow on the ground, it would get scared. And since it had got scared, it would not allow anybody to ride him. So Alexander had noticed that. So he drew the horse away from the sun so that it could not see its shadow. And then simultaneously he spoke to the horse, stroked the horse, and then mounted the horse. The horse did not protest. It looked like they were made for each other. So he went for a ride and came back. Look, to the amazement of the onlookers. Even his father was surprised, and his father is supposed to have remarked after seeing this that this kingdom is very small for you. You go and carve out your own kingdom. So this incident happened when Alexander was about 10 years old. The name of the horse was Bucephalus. You can see Bucephalus. Now, when Alexander was about 17 years old, in a military coup, his father was assassinated. Philip II was killed in a military coup. And all the sons of Philip II began to fight for the throne of Macedonia. Alexander also participated in this civil war. And he managed to kill all his brothers, and he became the king of Macedonia. So if he had not killed, he would have got killed. So he had to do something. So he killed all his stepbrothers, and then he became the king of Macedonia. His teacher was Aristotle. Alexander's teacher was Aristotle. And Aristotle had told Alexander that the earth ends after India. That those days, nobody knew how big the earth was. So his teacher had told him that the earth ends after India. And Alexander had this grand ambition of conquering the entire earth. So he thought if he can conquer all those areas up to India, thus he has conquered the entire earth. So here, he also wanted to fulfill the ambition of his father. What was the ambition of his father? To reconquer all those lands which had fallen into the hands of the Greeks or into the hands of the Persians. So during those days, the king of Persia was Darius III. Darius III, who was called the Lord of the Universe. So he was the emperor of Persia. He had a huge empire. And Alexander was just a prince. He was just the prince of a city-state, the king of a city-state called Macedonia, small city-state. But then he was a great general on the battlefield, a natural leader of men, and a great fighter. And then once he became the king of Macedonia, he began to conquer the neighboring territories. And he had a seasoned army. His father had established his army, and you had very experienced men in them, like Parmenion and others. So Alexander began to conquer the neighboring states, and gradually his kingdom, his city-state began to expand. His kingdom began to expand. And then he challenged the mighty emperor of Persia, Darius III. And it is said that Darius laughed off when he came to know that Alexander was challenging him for battle. He laughed at when he heard about this. But then at this place called Issus, there was a famous battle called Issus, which was fought between Alexander and Darius III. Alexander defeated Darius III, and this particular development was taken very, very seriously by Darius III. He was the emperor of Persia, and this small boy, a teenager, had defeated him. So he organized an army 5 times the size of Alexander's army, right? And then we have the famous battle of Arabella, also called Gaugamela, which takes place in the year 331 BC. So already Alexander had defeated Darius III in the battle of Issus. So then here Darius III organized a army, 5 times that of Alexander's army, and challenged again Alexander. So the famous battle of Gugamela or Arbela took place. You can see here on your screen, I have put a graphic representation of this particular battle. So here, I'll just show you. This is just to kindle your interest. This is not important from the exam point of view, but then this is just to add some spice to the class. So what happened in this battle, the battle of Gugamela or Arbela? So here, this is the army of Darius the Third. Okay, imagine this is the army of Darius the Third, and this is Alexander's army, small army, and Alexander relied on cavalry. He always led from the front, whereas the Persian emperor was at the rear. This is the rear. So he sat on a throne. The Persian emperor sat on a throne, and from the rear, he will direct his army. He'll direct his various regiments or battalions as to what they're supposed to do. So he would conduct his operations from the rear. And Alexander always led from the front. And he would never wait for his enemy to make the move. He always made the first move, Alexander. So here, Alexander knew about the Persian military strategy. So I believe when both these armies were facing each other, Alexander changed the layout of his army, the structure of his army. So it looks something like this. Now I'll erase this for our convenience. So it looks something like this now. His army, suddenly the formation changed like this, where you have less men at the flanks. So in the wings, you have less men and more men at the center. So it changes layout like this. So looking at this, Darius III ordered, he also changed his position, or rather the structure of his army. So his army became something like this now. So he ordered his men to surround the army of Alexander so that nobody is spared. So his army becomes something like this, where more people are there on the flanks and less in the center, so that none of the Greeks escape. And this is what Alexander was waiting for. So this is the time when he makes a decisive move. He goes straight at the enemy with a few hundred chosen, cavalrymen. He charged at Darius III, and he broke through this thin file of men. And looking at the ferocity with which Alexander was riding towards him, Darius III ran away from the battlefield. You can see on your screen here. This is the decisive move made by Alexander. See this arrow mark, big arrow mark. Darius III ran away from the battlefield. He ordered his chariot rider to turn around and go back. He ran away. And Alexander comes back and rejoins his men. And the other Persian soldiers were all slaughtered to death. They were killed. And this was a great victory scored by Alexander. So this is the famous battle of Gugamela or Arbela. And in a few hours, it was over. Alexander and his men entered Persia. They went to the palace of Persepolis. It was a wooden palace. And he became the emperor of Persia. He conquered the entire Persia. And we are told that later, Darius III was killed by his own men. After a few months, he was killed by his own people. Now, if you want to know about Alexander, you go on YouTube and there is one program. There's a particular episode called In the Footsteps of Alexander. This is if you're interested only, just for time pass, In the Footsteps of Alexander. In the Footsteps of Alexander. So this is a beautiful program, shot by the BBC team, the British Broadcasting Corporation team. They have traced the journey of Alexander from Macedonia all the way to the borders of India and back up to Babylonia, where he died. In the footsteps of Alexander. It is on YouTube. And there are many parts to this particular program. Each part is about 30-40 minutes. You'll see that. It's very interesting. If whenever you are taking a break and you want just want to refresh your mind, you watch this program. Very interesting. So here, Alexander becomes the emperor of Persia. And what did the Greeks do? They committed all sorts of atrocities on the people of Persia. They womanized, they drank, they partied, okay, day and night. And for a few months, they stayed there in Persia, every day partying, womanizing, etc. And in the Holy Quran, there is Alexander is called a devil with two horns. in the Holy Quran book, the sacred book of the Muslims. He's called a devil with two horns. And the Persians hate him for this reason because so much of atrocities were committed by Alexander and his men. Now, so they stay in Persia, in the palace of Persepolis for a few months. And then one day, in a party, in the night, they were all drunk. One of the officers, he took a torch. He took a fire torch, and he lit the curtains of the palace of Persepolis. Others joined in with their own torches. So they torched the palace of Persepolis, which burned down. Alexander also joined in this burning of the palace of Persepolis. So from Iran, they moved towards India, and they entered India through the Khyber Pass. Through the Khyber Pass. So in the northwest portions of India, there were two rulers ruling at that point. One was Ambhi, the king of Takshashila. You can see here Ambhi, the king of Takshashila, Taxila in Pakistan, nowadays in Pakistan, Takshashila, and Raja Purushottama, who was the king between the rivers Jhelum and Chenab rivers. He was ruling between the territory between two rivers, Jhelum and Chenab. And these two were enemies, Ambi and Porus or Purushottama. Greek records, Greek sources call him as Porus. And please understand, Alexander did not come alone. He came along with historians like Callisthenes, who have beautifully documented all his battles, all the route taken by Alexander, various battles he fought, what all happened in those battles, etc. So here, Ambi is submitted before Alexander. So he gave 3,000 sheep as a reward, as a gift to Alexander to feed his army, Alexander's army. 3,000 sheep was gifted by Ambi. And he filled up the ears of Alexander against Porus, against Purushottama. So Alexander wanted to fight against Purushottama now. And this was in the middle of the night. The river Jhelum was in spate. It was in floods. So Alexander could not cross the river Jhelum because it was in floods. And Greek sources call the river Jhelum as Hyphasis. So Hydaspes. So they call the river Jhelum as Hydaspes. But in the middle of the night, the flood waters receded. And he found a small gap. Alexander found a small gap and he crossed over into the territory of Raja Purushottama. And Purushottama was waiting for Alexander and his men. So he had a small army, Raja Purushottama, and he also had an elephant corps of 200, 200 elephant corps, an army of 200 elephants, and also, of course, infantry, etc. And Greek sources give us this information that he was a man of 3.5 cubits in size. That's about 6.7, 6.8 in height, and a very well built fellow. This Raja Purushottama. And Alexander was on his horse, Bucephalus, the same horse which he had ridden for the first time as a boy of 10 years. So this was the horse which had brought him all the way to the borders of India, a journey of 20,000 kilometers. He had traveled 20,000 kilometers on horseback, winning everything on the way from Macedonia up to the borders of India, up to the river Bias. We'll come to that. So here, and Raja Purushottama was on his elephant. And in this battle of Jhelum or Hydaspes, Alexander's horse, Bucephalus, was trampled to death by Raja Porus's elephant. Purushottama's elephant trampled Bucephalus to death. Alexander quickly mounted another horse and continued the fight. And then you please understand what happened in this battle. See, the Greeks had never seen elephants. They had fought many battles all the way from Macedonia. They had defeated many armies, but they had never encountered elephants in their adversary's army. And for the first time, they were seeing and encountering elephants in the army of their adversary. And these are war elephants, trained, armored elephants. They make them drink also before the war. So they were very ferocious. And these elephants were creating a lot of havoc in the army of Alexander. And a part of his soldiers began to retreat. They did not know how to handle this animal. So then Alexander quickly regrouped. He quickly regrouped, and he was a great general, great leader of men. So what he did is he ordered his soldiers to go behind the rear of the elephant with their sarissas. Take your spears, sarissas, and you poke them from the rear, and then use your arrows to and aim them at the eyes of the elephant. So once this order was given by Alexander, his men, his archers began to shoot arrows at the eyes of the elephants, and then his soldiers began to spike the elephants with their sarissas from the rear. And the elephants were mad with rage. They began to trample their own soldiers. And Alexander, who was on another horse, was watching Porus fight. And he was fighting bravely, killing a number of Greek officers and soldiers. But ultimately, he was defeated. Raja Purushottama was defeated. And Alexander had won this battle, the Battle of Hydaspes. And he was brought before chains. Raja Purushottama was brought before chains before Alexander. Alexander was sitting on the throne of Raja Porus. And Alexander is supposed to have asked him one question. So he had his battle wounds on his body, Raja Purushottama. He was brought before chains in front of Alexander. And Alexander is supposed to have asked him only one question. What did he ask him? He said, he's supposed to have asked him, how do you think I should treat you? How do you think I should treat you? That's the one question he asked. And without flinching an eyelid, Raja Purushottama is supposed to have replied, like one king treats another king. Like one king treats another king. Alexander was already impressed with his bravery, what he had seen on the battlefield. So he rose from the chair. This answer impressed Alexander. So he rose from the chair. He ordered his men to remove all those chains of Porus. He embraced him and they became friends. And Alexander gave back his kingdom. He gave back the kingdom of Raja Purushottama back to him. And they became allies or friends. And then Alexander moved on with his men. And they came up to the river Bias, the Hyphasis. Greek sources call it as Hyphasis. Across the river Bias, we had the army of the Nandas. Dharananda was the king. And what was the strength of the Nanda army? Understand this. The strength of the Nanda army, according to Greek sources, 2 lakh infantry. So they had an infantry of 2 lakh infantry, 6,000 war chariots, 9,000 war chariots, and 6,000 elephants. This was the size of the Nanda army. And we have a Jewish historian. His name is Joseph ben Gurion. Joseph ben Gurion. He tells us that when the Greeks heard about the strength of the Nanda army, it sent a chill through their spine, because this was a formidable force: 2 lakh infantry, about 9,000 war chariots, 6,000 war elephants. And here, 200 war elephants of Porus had made them drink water. They were not able to handle 200 elephants. What about 6,000 war elephants? Anyway, by this time, the soldiers of Alexander had it enough. They were feeling homesick. There was a rebellion, a serious rebellion in his army. They wanted to go back home. They were feeling homesick and they wanted to go back. And you know what? And many rebellions had taken place in his army earlier also. It had been 8 years since they had left home. It had been 8 years since they had left Macedonia. They had left their families, wife, children, etc. behind. And the Greek soldiers and officers had it enough. But Alexander had this mad ambition of conquering the entire earth. And he couldn't have done it without the help of his officers and soldiers. And do you know what is the incentive he gave them? No, the incentive Alexander gave them was every new area conquered by his army meant that his soldiers and officers will get an opportunity to have relationship with the new women of that area. A new area conquered means they could establish relationship with the local women of that area. So wherever they went, wherever the Greeks went, they brought death, destruction, and rapine. But then his men had it enough. They did not want to listen to Alexander. They wanted to go back home. So the man who had never seen any defeat, he tried to argue with them, discuss with them. He pleaded, in fact, almost begged them that he would want to go further and conquer more areas. But his soldiers would not relent. And ultimately, the man who had never seen any defeat had to accept defeat from his own soldiers. So what did Alexander do? He divided his army into two parts. And one part of his army, he kept under the command of his officer called Nearchus. So you have an officer called Nearchus. So he told Nearchus, you take this army of mine through the sea route. You can see on your screen. So you see, this is the Indus River. So he told his officer Nearchus to take the sea route and go all the way up to the mouth of the Euphrates. So you have Pakistan here. So this is the Indus River, and he took the sea route. So he took half his army on boats and ships, And he reaches Euphrates, and like this he reaches Greece. So he was able to reach Greece, and on the way, Alexander told Nearchus, "You mark all those potential harbors on the map." Alexander's plan was, let my soldiers take rest. I'll go back home, and after some time, I'll come back through the sea route and continue my conquest. That was his plan. So Nearchus took half of his army by the sea route, and he reaches the mouth of the Euphrates, and then he reaches Greece. He reaches Greece, right? Alexander, with the other part of his army, other half of his army, fought his way through the republics of the Punjab. He fought his way through the republics of the Punjab. They attacked the republics of the Punjab, attacked the rear of Alexander's army. They were trying to loot and plunder whatever he was carrying along with him. So he fought his way through the republics of the Punjab, defeated all those republics, and then his army got lost in one of the deserts of Pakistan. In present day Pakistan, what is now called Pakistan, there's a desert which the Greeks call as Gedrosian Desert. Gedrosia. Gedrosian Desert. So they got lost in this desert. They did not know which way to get out of this desert. And they ran out of supplies, food and water. And they spent 60 days there in the desert. And how did they survive, you might ask? They killed the horses. They ate the meat of the horses. They drank the blood of the horses. You might not believe all these things. That's why I told you, go to that BBC program on YouTube, In the Footsteps of Alexander, and you see that program. They'll show you all these things. And then there are certain plants which can absorb moisture, early morning moisture in their roots. So they dug up many of these plants. They drank the roots. They squeezed the roots with whatever moisture they had, and they drank the water, etc. So somehow they survived for 60 days, and at last he was able to get out of the desert. But then Alexander never reached Macedonia. On the way, at Babylonia, in present-day Iraq, at the age of 33 years, Alexander died under controversial circumstances. There are many theories which have been put forth as regards how he died. Some say that he had been shot with a poisonous arrow. So when he was in India, an arrow had struck him, and our fellows had used to dip poison in those at the arrowhead, and then they used to shoot. So this poisonous arrow had hit his body, and it had pierced his body, and the poison had spread, and that resulted in a serious fever. So he developed a fever over a period of time, and then that brought about his death, it is told. That is one. Another theory is he was a bisexual. Alexander was a bisexual. So he had a friend called Hephaestion. Hephaestion died. So he was very, very close to Alexander. When Hephaestion died, this broke the heart of Alexander, and that brought about his death, they say. So anyway, he died under controversial circumstances at the age of 33 years. And in this short span of 33 years, Alexander had established a huge empire. You can see on your screen, this is the empire established by Alexander on your screen. From Macedonia and Greece, this is the route taken by Alexander. You can see that arrow mark there. This is the route taken by him, all the way, winning everything up to the borders of India and going back. And he died at Babylonia, at a place called Babylonia in present-day Iraq. He died. So what is the impact of Alexander's invasion of India? That's more important from the exam point of view. Effects of Alexander's invasion. First of all, you can see on your screen, you have mutual contact between Indian and Greek culture. So here, many of the Greeks, understand this, many of the Greeks who had come along with Alexander never went back with him. So they settled down in northern Afghanistan. Understand this? They settled down in northern Afghanistan. They married the local women of northern Afghanistan. And in Greek records, northern Afghanistan is called Bactria. Understand this? It is called Bactria. So these Greeks came to be called the Bactrian Greeks. These Greeks came to be called Bactrian Greeks. Northern Afghanistan means Bactria. Not bacteria, this is Bactria. So Greek records call northern Afghanistan as Bactria. These Greeks settled down in that area, married the local women, had a relationship with the local women of that area. And in course of time, these Bactrian Greeks became Indianized. Earlier, they used to worship Greek and Roman gods, but the descendants of these Greeks who had married the local women of that area became Indianized. That is, they adopted Indian culture. They became Indianized. They began to worship Buddha or Krishna, right? And they began to depict Buddha as a Greco-Roman god. So in ancient Greece and Rome, they used to make images or idols of gods like Apollo, Zeus, etc. And these Greek and Roman gods were depicted with a very strong body, has a tall, strong, robust physique, with a mustache and a beard. So that's how they used to depict their gods, these Greeks and Romans. So once these Bactrian Greeks took to the worship of Buddha, in the images of Buddha, Buddha came to be depicted as a Greco-Roman god. So Buddha was given a very strong physique in the idols. He was shown with a beard and a mustache. So in the northwest portions of India, that is present-day northern Afghanistan, a distinct school of art came into existence. That is the Gandhara school of art. Gandhara is the old name of Kandahar, what we now call Kandahar, which is part of Afghanistan. Those days was called Gandhara. So you have in Gandhara, in the northwest portions of India, present-day Afghanistan, the Gandhara school of art, which came into existence. This is one impact. Secondly, Indian numismatics was influenced by Greeks. So Greeks used to later Indian numismatics was influenced by Greeks. Indian coins began to be minted on Greek lines. The decimal system of rotation is an Indian gift to Greece. The decimal system of rotation in mathematics. Further, Greek doctors used to take an oath. Once they finished their medical course, they used to take an oath. This is called Hippocratic oath. Hippocrates is the father of medicine. So even now, MBBS graduates, somebody must be a doctor here among you. After you finish your graduation, MBBS graduation, you take an oath. You're supposed to take an oath. That's called Hippocratic oath. That is, what is the oath you are supposed to take? That you will treat everybody equally. You will not discriminate between patients on the basis of religion, caste, color, sex, etc. You will treat all the patients equally. So this Hippocratic oath, influenced Indian medicine. Further, the philosophy of ahimsa, asceticism also influenced the Greeks, Indian philosophy of ahimsa, asceticism. Then 326 BC is considered to be the sheet anchor of Indian chronology. It is considered to be the sheet anchor of Indian chronology, 326 BC, because we know what was happening in India, in our society and economy at that point in time. Because as I told you, Alexander did not come alone. He came with many historians. And these historians, historians, Greek historians give us a lot of information about what was happening in India in 326 BC. Therefore, it is considered to be the sheet anchor of Indian chronology. Further, four new routes, understand this, four new routes came into existence. Some books say three new routes came into existence between the east and the west. Two by the sea route and two by the land route. Near Chess, Alexander's general went through the sea route to Greece. So he found out two new routes by the sea route to between India and the west. And Alexander, as we have seen, went through the land route, took the land route out of India. So two new routes, four new routes, two by the land and two by the sea, came into existence between the east and the west, right? And of course, you have Chandragupta Maurya, who as soon as Alexander came and went back, the Nanda Empire was overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya. So Chandragupta Maurya killed Dhanananda, the last Nanda king, and he established the Mauryan Empire. So it became easy for Chandragupta Maurya to consolidate his newly established empire because he was easily able to conquer northwest portions of India. Why? Because already those areas had been weakened by Alexander. As I told you, when Alexander went out of India, he went through the northwest portions of India, fighting against the republics of the Punjab. So all these republics in the northwest had become weak, because of Alexander's march through them. So it was all those areas were easily conquered by Chandragupta Maurya, thus consolidating his newly established empire. And of course, you have Chandragupta Maurya reorganizing his army on Greek lines. So he understood that the Mauryan army was not very strong. So he reorganized his army on Greek lines, on the lines of Alexander. This is the impact of Alexander's invasion on India. Did you understand? Gunjan says, RB, आज भी webinar है. Yeah, you're right, Shailaja. You're right. So you have a webinar today also at 8:30, is it? What time is your webinar? Gunjan is reminding me. So this is about Alexander's invasion of India. Are you clear? Are you there with me, all of you? Okay. Like yesterday, I'll leave you 10 minutes early. Is it fine? 10 minutes early. So this is about Alexander. Do you understand? This is about Alexander and his invasion of India and its impact. So go through this. Let us look at the questions on your screen. Let us look at the questions. Finish this chapter and then we'll come to Mauryan Empire. Match the following using the codes given below. So Magadhan Emperor and the territory conquered. So Bimbisara conquered what? Anga. Bimbisara conquered Anga. We have seen this. Ajatashatru conquered the Lichavis of Vaishali. So he conquers Vaishali. The Lichavis of Vaishali. Mahapadmananda conquered Ashmaka and Shishunaga conquered Avanti. Shishunagas conquered Avanti. So that is the answer. Right? Can this be a mains question? I don't think so, Ankush. This is you need to understand from the culture point of view. See, why has it been structured like this? Ancient, then medieval, then art and culture? Because then you'll be able to relate to art and culture better. Once we go through ancient and medieval, you'll be able to better understand the links, the missing links when we do art and culture. Right? We'll come back here. Ropana, the technique of transplantation of paddy, was mentioned for the first time in what? So this is a UPSC question. It is mentioned in Panini's Ashtadhyayi. So this is a book, a grammar book written by Panini called Ashtadhyayi. And in this book, paddy transplantation has been mentioned for the first time. About this is Ropana, paddy transplantation. So factual question. Which of the following is incorrect? Incorrect about punch mark coins. They are uninscribed. That is correct. That is, nothing has been written on them, uninscribed. We have looked at punch mark silver and copper coins. I've told you that they had symbols of peacock, hill, crescent, etc. So nothing is written on them. Only the punches are there. It has been embossed with certain marks or symbols. So they are uninscribed. That is correct. They are made up of either silver or copper. That is also correct. Right? Then they bear one or multiple punches on them. That is also correct. They can be definitely attributed to a particular king. That is not correct. So they are asking which of the following is incorrect about punch mark coins. The D is the answer. Right? They can be definitely attributed to a particular king. That is not correct. You see, whatever we have just now discussed, Alexander's invasion is called the first Greek invasion. Alexander's invasion is called the first Greek invasion. Then you might ask, which is the second Greek invasion? Which is the second Greek invasion? It happened in the post-Maurya period. In the post-Maurya period, we have the second Greek invasion. We have the so-called Bactrian Greeks. The Bactrian Greeks who invaded India. And this is called the second Greek invasion of India. How it happened, I'll tell you later when I do post-Maurya period chapter. Okay. So these Greeks, the greatest of the Bactrian Greeks was a person called Milinda or Menander. So he was in fact, this is called the second Greek invasion. So he was a person called Demetrius. A king called Demetrius conquered a few parts of northwest India. So he is supposed to be the second Greek hero after Alexander to conquer a few parts of northwest India. And these Greeks, the Bactrian Greeks, issued coins. They were the first to issue gold coins, in fact, the Bactrian Greeks. And on their coins, we have the names of their king along with their picture, which have been embossed. So we have the photo of the king, the figure of the king, which has been embossed on their gold coins, along with the names of these kings. Right? This is the second Greek invasion. In the first Greek invasion, we never had anything like that. We don't have any name of a king mentioned on any of these punch mark silver and copper coins. Yeah, we'll come back here. What is Shantagara? Again, this is a UPSC question. Shantagara, I told you, is a parliament in the republics, a parliament in republican states, also called Gana Parishad. Shantagara is also called Gana Parishad, a parliament in republican states, also called Gana Parishad. हाँ गुंजन सर Alexander और सिकंदर हिंदी में सिकंदर no in Hindi Alexander is called Sikandar. Yeah, Gunjan, same है Sikandar. Then which of the following kingdoms were republican states in the pre-Maurya period? So which are the republican states? Definitely not Magadha and Avanti. Rest are all Lichavis, Vaideha, and Malla. They were all republican states. 2, 3, and 4. Now, Seleucus Nicator also tried such. Chandragupta Maurya defeated. Can we consider this as Greek invasion? No, Seleucus Nicator. No, you cannot consider this as a Greek invasion. He was one of the generals of Alexander, and he was trying to claim the Asiatic provinces of Alexander's empire as his own. Understand this? When I come to Seleucus Nicator, I'll answer that question. Who is this? Ankush. Ankush. Okay, so here, please understand, Alexander died, and one of his generals, Seleucus Nicator, began to claim the Asiatic provinces of Alexander's empire as his own. And here you have an upstart, Chandragupta Maurya, who had recently overthrown the Nandas, who was trying to consolidate his newly established empire. And these two ambitious men came into contact with each other, and there was a war, right? So, because those areas within the Asian continent of Alexander's empire was claimed by Seleucus Nicator. And Chandragupta Maurya was also claiming those areas as his own, right? And that led to the war between these two ambitious men. Did you get me that, Ankush? So we'll come back here. Match the following by using the codes given below. King and name in Greek records. So Ambhi in Greek records is called Omphis. Ambi is called Omphis. Chandragupta Maurya is called Sandrakotas. Bindusara is called Amitrochates. And Dhanananda is called Agrams. So these are the equivalent names in Greek records of these Indian kings. So this is the end of pre-Maurya period. So we have finished, Stone Age, Harappan civilization, Vedic period, pre-Maurya period. We have finished 4 chapters. Let us come to another chapter, Mauryan Empire. 5th chapter in your syllabus, Mauryan Empire. Okay, so let us talk about the Mauryas, Mauryan Empire, interesting chapter, 321 to 184 BCE, Mauryan Empire. Any doubts, any questions, clarifications regarding pre-Maurya period? Everything is clear, all of you? Everything is clear? Sir, revision कब करें? Akshara, whenever you have time, you please revise within first revision within 24 hours. Second revision within 3 days. Okay, third revision within a month. Where is Mongolia? North of China. Why are you thinking about Mongolia, Ganjan? Ask your geography teacher or look at the map. North of China is Mongolia. Yes. Yeah. In the pre-Maurya period, they got separated. Yeah, by Ankush. Gunjan, Mongolia. I'll come to Mongols. In medieval India, we'll talk about Mongols. Okay. Gunjan, Mongolia is in northern part of China. Mongol attack happened much later in our history. Mongols come much later. Okay. During the time of Iltutmish, first Mongol attack on India happened during the time of Iltutmish or Altamish. Delhi Sultanate chapter is there. Qutbuddin Aibak was succeeded by Iltutmish or Altamish. During his period, we have the first Mongol attack. Right? Genghis Khan came up to the borders of India, chasing Khwarezmi prince. There was a dynasty in Central Asia, Gunjan, called Khwarezmi dynasty. And there was a prince of the Khwarezmi dynasty. His name was Jalaluddin Mangbarani. So chasing this Jalaluddin Mangbarani, he came up to the borders of India. That was the first Mongol attack on India during the time of Iltutmish. So we are still yet to come there. Gunjan, let us cross the bridge when we arrive there. Okay, Ankush have already answered that question. We'll come back here. Mauryan Empire. Now, what do you know about the Mauryas? What do you know about the Mauryas? Anybody here? All of you? Mauryas. What do you know about the Mauryas? Hello? Who was the greatest of the Mauryas? You know, you just have to scratch your brain and then you'll get the answer. Mauryas were the first to unify India. Chandragupta Maurya was the founder. Yugasin, very good. Ankush, Ashoka was the greatest. Gunjan, Chandragupta Maurya was the founder. Okay, very good. So let us talk about the Mauryas. Deepshika, Chanakya, Bimbisara, Ashoka, Kalinga War, Arthashastra, Akhanda Bharat. Okay, Deepshika has given the summary of the chapter. So Roshan, founder of the empire. Okay, fine. So you know quite a lot about the Mauryas. Let us talk about them. So look at the synopsis here. Look at the map of the Mauryan Empire. This was the first pan-India empire. They ruled from parts of Afghanistan. On your screen, Mauryas ruled from parts of Afghanistan to the river Kaveri. This was the first pan-India empire. First pan-India empire established by the Mauryas. First pan-India empire. And the Mauryas were the first to establish the scientific defensive frontier. Understand this. Mauryas were the first to establish the so-called scientific defensive frontier. Scientific defensive frontier. What's the meaning of scientific defensive frontier? That is, when you conquer all these four areas, Kabul, Kandahar, Sindh, and Baluchistan. So this is where the natural boundaries of India end. Those days, all these were part of India, and the natural boundaries of India ended here when you conquer all these four areas: Kabul, Kandahar, Sindh, and Baluchistan. The first to achieve the first to make this achievement were the Mauryas. They were the first to establish a scientific defensive frontier. Second man in the history of India to conquer these four areas was Emperor Akbar. So Akbar was the second man. First were the Mauryas. Second was Emperor Akbar. And the third and the last time, all these four areas were part of India, was the British East India Company, the English East India Company. So the Mauryas were the first to establish a scientific defensive frontier where the natural boundaries of India end. Okay. Not much about the Northeast at that point in time. Mostly forest tribes, Devyani, mostly forest tribes. Okay, so this was the first pan-India empire established by the Mauryas. Look at the synopsis here. We'll talk about it. Origin of the Mauryas, sources for the study of the Mauryas. We have foreign accounts, indigenous literature, edicts of Ashoka, other inscriptions. Then political history, Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusar, Ashoka, and later Mauryas. Then Mauryan administration, administrative division of the empire, central administration, accounts of Megasthenes. Who was this Megasthenes? What is the information he gives about Mauryan empire? Society, Mauryan society, economy, decline of the Mauryas. Art and architecture will be covered as part of art and culture. Art and architecture will be covered as part of art and culture topic. And then questions which have appeared from this chapter. Okay, so let us talk about it. You see, understand this. It is said that a real history of India, proper history of India, or actual history of India begins from the Mauryas. Actual history of India or real Indian history begins from the Mauryas. So why do we say this, that real Indian history or proper Indian history begins from the Mauryas? Because we have a number of sources for the study of the Mauryas. We have a number of sources for the study of the Mauryas, and these are authentic sources, very reliable and authentic sources are there. A number of travelers came to the Mauryan Empire, number of Greek and Roman writers. writers like Pliny, Justin, Strabo, Arrian, Diodorus, Megasthenes, etc. So these Greek and Roman scholars, writers, they give us a lot of information about the Mauryan Empire in Greek and Roman or Latin language. In Greek and Latin language, they give us a lot of information. Then, of course, we have the indigenous books, that is the local books, books written by local scholars. Like among them, the most important is the Arthashastra of Kautilya. Kautilya, also called Chanakya or Vishnugupta. So he writes a book called Arthashastra. So Arthashastra gives us a lot of information about the Mauryan administration. So that is another source of information, reliable information about the Mauryas. Then we have the edicts of Ashoka. What are edicts of Ashoka? Edicts are royal messages. Edicts are royal messages which Ashoka got inscribed on the surface of rocks, pillars, and on the walls of caves. So these are called rock edicts, pillar edicts, and cave edicts. So on the surface of rocks, pillars, and on the walls of caves, he got these edicts or royal messages inscribed, written down. And they are found, these edicts are found throughout the length and breadth of India. And wherever we have found these edicts, we come to know the extent of the Mauryan Empire, how big the Mauryan Empire was. So these are another source of reliable information for the study of the Mauryas. So we have copious amount of sources. Literary sources are there. Understand this? Literary sources are there for the study of the Mauryas. And among literary sources, we have foreign sources and indigenous sources. So this is number one, literary sources. Then we have archaeological sources. Archaeological sources. Among archaeological sources, we have the edicts of Ashoka. Number three, we have the pottery, northern black polished ware. Northern black polished ware. That is another source of information for the study of the Mauryas. We have inscriptions. We have a number of inscriptions which have been found, which also give information about the Mauryas. Inscriptions. Right? So here, real Indian history is said to begin from the Mauryan Empire onwards. Please understand, Mauryas ruled for 137 years. Mauryas ruled for only 137 years. 90 years plus 47. Totally 137 years. 90 years, you have the rule of Chandragupta Maurya. I'll write in short CGM. Chandragupta Maurya, then succeeded by his son Bindusar and Ashoka. So these are the great Mauryas. Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusar, and Bindusara's son Ashoka. They ruled for 90 years. And then 47 years is the rule of the later Mauryas. That is the successors of Ashoka. Sons and successors of Ashoka, they are called later Mauryas. They ruled for a total period of 47 years. So totally, they ruled for 137 years only. Jainism, Buddhism, इस time पर ही आया था क्या? No, 6th century BC. Jainism, Buddhism is before Mauryas, Gunjan, in the pre-Maurya period. So when I do art and culture, I'll be discussing about Buddhism and Jainism, apart from Bhagavatism, Shaivism, etc. So I'll be doing that. Please ask your questions in English, Gunjan. Okay, clear? Fine. Northern black polished ware. Akshara, can you be specific, please? Can you be specific? What's your doubt, Akshara? So you see the edicts of Ashoka, except Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Edicts of Ashoka have been found throughout the Indian subcontinent, except Kerala and Tamil Nadu. And from these edicts, we can come to know the extent of the Mauryan Empire. So we'll talk about the Mauryas here on your screen. So Mauryas ruled over the entire Indian subcontinent, as I told you, as you all know, and you have the natural progression of the Mauryas. The Magadhan Empire was ruled by the Haryanka dynasty, then by the Shishunagas, then the Nandas. So Haryanka dynasty, Shishunagas, Nandas, and Nandas were succeeded by the Mauryas. And we have seen how Magadhan Empire kept on expanding under all these dynasties. Mauryas ruled for totally 137 years. Totally 137 years, that is 90 plus 47. And real Indian history begins from the Mauryas because we have a number of sources, copious sources, plenty of sources are there. Chicha will come to that. Just hold on. Let me finish Chandragupta Maurya, then you can ask me that question. No, scientific defensive frontier, what I meant is where the natural boundaries of India end. Natural boundaries of India, those days encompassed all these areas, Kabul, Kandahar, Sindh, Baluchistan. So first time all these four areas were conquered by the Mauryas. Second time it was conquered by Akbar. And the third time by the British East India Company. Okay, did you understand? Yes, it has got regional limitations. It is called northern black polished ware for that reason, mostly found in the northern parts of India. Yeah, you can definitely. I'll answer you, Checha. Checha, you see, she's asking whether Chandragupta Maurya's rule was better in comparison to Magadhan Empire. Of course, definitely. Chandragupta Maurya, ruled for 24 years, and he conquered everything from parts of present-day Afghanistan to the river to the Vindhyas. From present-day Afghanistan to central India, everything was conquered by Chandragupta Maurya. At, I'm sorry, he ruled for 24 years, and the concept of welfare state begins from him. What is welfare state? That the state or the government exists for the welfare of its citizens. That concept was begun by Chandragupta Maurya. So automatically, his rule was much more advanced when compared to that of his predecessors who ruled over the Magadhan kingdom. Here, this was an empire, which he established from parts of Afghanistan to the Vindhya Mountains, central India. Okay, Chitsha. So we'll come back here. So here, the Mauryas ruled from Kashmir to the river Kaveri and from present-day Bangladesh to Afghanistan. So it was a huge empire. Now let us understand the origin of the Mauryas. Let us talk about the origin of the Mauryas. Who are these Mauryas? Who were these Mauryas rather? There are a number of theories as regards the origin of the Mauryas. First of all, we have the Puranas. Understand this. We have the Puranas. Puranas are Brahmanical sources. Puranas are Brahmanical sources. Brahmanical sources. They criticize the Mauryas. Understand this? They criticize the Mauryas as Shudras and unrighteous. Shudras and unrighteous. So they look down upon the Mauryas and they criticize the Mauryas as Shudras and unrighteous. What is unrighteous? That is, they did not rule according to Dharma. They were adharmis, in other words. So they did not rule according to Dharma. That is the meaning of unrighteous. So Puranas criticize the Shudras, criticize the Mauryas as Shudras and unrighteous. But then please understand, historians don't agree to this opinion about the Puranas. Why? The question is, why do the Puranas criticize the Mauryas as Shudras and unrighteous? And historians have pondered over this. And then they have given us the following explanation. Look here. The first three Mauryas, Chandragupta Maurya. Can I use the word CGM in short? Chandragupta Maurya. CGM is Chandragupta Maurya. Is it fine, all of you? Okay. So Chandragupta Maurya, then Bindusar, his son Bindusar, and Ashoka. They were all supporters of heterodox sects. Chandragupta Maurya supported which religion? Jainism. Chandragupta Maurya supported Jainism. Bindusara supported Ajivika sect. Now, who these Ajivikas were, I'll tell you later. When I come there, I'll tell you later. Just understand this much as of now. Chandragupta Maurya supported Jainism. Bindusara supported Ajivika sect. And Ashoka supported, as you all know, Buddhism. So the great Mauryas never supported the Vedic religion. They did not support the Vedic religion or the Brahmanical religion. So they did not get any support from the Mauryas, the Brahmanas, the supporters, the guardians of the Vedic religion. And therefore, the Puranas, which are Brahmanical textbooks, criticize the Mauryas as Shudras and unrighteous. Did you understand? They criticize the Mauryas as Shudras and unrighteous, that they did not rule according to Dharma. So this is what the historians have told us. Then we come to Justin. Justin was a Greek writer. Justin was a Greek. He wrote, and he says that Chandragupta Maurya belonged to a humble origin. He says Chandragupta Maurya, CGM in short, belonged to a humble origin. So that is the opinion of Justin. Then we have the Junagadh rock inscription of Rudradaman. So Junagadh is a place in Gujarat, present-day Gujarat. Junagadh, also called Girnar. Junagadh or Girnar in Gujarat, present-day Gujarat. And you have a branch of the Shakas. We'll come to that when I do post-Maurya period. I'll talk about them. So there was a Shaka king called Rudradaman. So he belonged to the Shaka dynasty or Scythian dynasty. His name was Rudradaman. And Rudradaman issued Rudradaman the first. He issued an inscription which has been called Junagadh rock inscription. So on a big boulder, he got something written. And this has been found at Junagadh, therefore called Junagadh rock inscription. In this Junagadh rock inscription, we are told by Rudradaman that the Mauryas were Vaishyas. They were half Vaishya origin. That's what the Junagadh rock inscription of Rudradaman tells us. Then we have the Buddhist works, Buddhist textbooks. Buddhist textbooks uplift the social position of the Mauryas. Understand this. What do the Buddhist textbooks tell us? Buddhist books tell us that the word Maurya is from the word Moria. The word Maurya is from the word Moria. Basically, they were peacock tamers. Mauryas were peacock tamers or peacock keepers. So they used to tame peacock and they used to keep peacocks. And in Pali or even in Hindi, peacock is called more, isn't it? More. And the word Maurya is from the word Moria. That is what the Buddhist textbooks tell us. And they uplift the social position of the Mauryas. They tell us, the Buddhist textbooks, they tell us that Mauryas belong to the Sakya Kshatriya clan of Kapilavastu. Sakya clan of the Buddha. Buddha belonged to the Sakya clan, and Buddhist textbooks tell us that even the Mauryas belong to the same clan. So they uplift or elevate the social position of the Mauryas. Hello, are you there with me? Mega webinar is at 8:30. We are still at 8, not even 8:10. Just hold on. Yeah, Gunjan will come to that. Just hold on. Shunga dynasty comes later. So these are the interpretation given by historians Akshara. We are talking about the origin of the Mauryas, right? Yeah, Mega, I will be, I have a pending topics in art and culture. I will take it either on a Saturday or a Sunday. I have some pending topics. I'll finish it and give you. This weekend, I'll finish the weekend batch for art and culture. Don't worry about it. The pending topics, I'll finish. Because of the emergency, I could not do it. So we'll come back here. Are you clear till here, all of you? Can I do till 8:20? I'll stop at 8:20. You remind me. 8:20, another 10 minutes. Can I go on? Okay, fine. So so we'll come back here. So Puranas, Justin, Junagadh, Buddhist works. Now look here. We have another theory as regards the origin of the word Mauryas, and that is Mura. Look here on your screen. Who was this Mura? Who is this Mura? How has the name Maurya come about? Look here. Who was the last Nanda ruler? Dhanananda. You all know. The last Nanda ruler was Dhanananda. And we are told that Dhanananda had a concubine. He had a concubine. That is a keep. He had a keep or a concubine. Her name was Mura. Her name was Mura. In ancient India, understand this please, this was a UPSC question also in the prelims. In ancient Indian law, if a Dasi girl, if a slave woman, so Mura was a slave woman. She was a slave woman and she was one of the keeps of Dhanananda, concubine of Dhanananda. So in ancient Indian law, if a Dasi girl or a slave woman bears a male child, begets a male child through her master, then she can gain her freedom that way. So please understand, through Mura, through Dhanananda, Mura got a son. And that son was named Chandragupta Maurya. And the word Maurya is from the word Mura, according to some sources. So once a son was born to Mura through Dhanananda, Mura became a free girl. She became a free lady. She gained her freedom that way. And the word Maurya is from the word Mura, according to some sources. So some sources tell us that the word Maurya is from the word Mura. Did you understand? Yes, she was the keep of Dhanananda. Now, according to ancient Indian law, if a slave woman gives birth to a son to her master, that son can claim even right over the father's property. He can also get a share of his father's property. And his position will be equal to that of the other legal children of that person, of the father. So his position will be equal to that of the other sons, and he can also claim a share of the father's property, according to ancient Indian law. So here the word Mura, Maurya is from the word Mura, according to some sources, and it is very similar to what Justin says. What does Justin say? Justin says that Chandragupta Maurya came from a humble origin, but it doesn't mention his caste. So how do we conclude this origin of the Mauryas? We can say that the Mauryas belong to a humble origin, but to which caste they belong to, we don't know. That's how we conclude this. This is the origin of the Mauryas. Are you there with me, all of you? Clear? Who these Mauryas could have been? Puranas, Justin, Junagadh rock inscription, Buddhist works, Mura, and conclusion. How do we conclude? We say that Chandragupta Maurya belonged to a humble origin. But to which caste he belonged to, we don't know. Now we'll come back here. Let us look at the various sources for the study of the Mauryas. Various sources for the study of the Mauryas. Foreign accounts, indigenous literature, and the edicts of Ashoka. Okay. Deepshika, humble origin is very simple origin, simple background. Humble is very simple background. So today's Maurya caste is same as CG. I don't know Checha. You have a caste called Maurya caste? No, even now. I'm not very sure about it, but I'll not be able to answer that question. So sources for the study of the Mauryas, we'll talk about it. So we have a number of sources: Greek, Roman, Sinhalese, Tibetan, Chinese, etc. I think let me do one thing. Let me stop the class here because it will take me more time. More in 5 minutes, I cannot be covering everything. So I'll start fresh from tomorrow. Okay, from the sources for the study of the Mauryas. I'll discuss Mauryas fresh from tomorrow because I will not be able to do it in 5 minutes. Foreign accounts, and again I have to restart tomorrow. I don't want to do that. It's waste of time. So you take your break, eat your lunch, or sorry, dinner, and you get ready for your webinar. I'll see you tomorrow evening. Okay, so you carry on. Is it fine? We'll meet tomorrow same time, 5 o'clock. So all the best. We'll meet tomorrow. Any doubts? You please. So whatever is your query, you would throw a mail to targetis@byju's.com. Chandragupta Maurya's father was Sarvata Siddhi Maurya. Ankush, I don't know that. Where did you get this information? Sarvata Siddhi Maurya. Ankush. Akshara, I have no idea. I have no idea. Deepshika, I'll not be able to answer. Weekend test, etc. I will not be able to answer all those questions. My duty is to only teach. The background, in the background, there are a number of teams. They're working on those things, so I will not be able to answer that. I have no idea, Gunjan. So please, whatever is your queries related to subject, I can only answer subject-related questions. Please, I'll not be able to answer all those doubts. Um, so we'll see you tomorrow. You carry on. I'll meet you tomorrow at the same time, 5 o'clock. You good night. I'm logging out. Akshara will do that. World history, etc., art and culture, we will do that. Don't worry. Megha Chandragupta Maurya was the reason why Alexander didn't come to India, inside India. That cannot be the reason. Chandragupta Maurya is supposed to have served in the army of Alexander for some time. But later Alexander noticed that he was very ambitious. He ordered the arrest of Chandragupta Maurya, Alexander, but then somehow Chandragupta Maurya escaped. That's what we are told by some source. We'll come to that tomorrow. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay? Yeah, please do, Kennedy. Please do. Yeah, sure. So good night. I'm logging out. Thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. You get ready for your webinar.